Pokemon Ninjutsu Master Chapter 951-1000. Chapter 951. Luokan recognized the three gods of death. They were the captain of the 13th Division, Shiruro Yukitake, and the two vice-captains, Sentaro Katsuban and Toru Chingyan. "Are you two all right?" Shiruro Yukitake asked the two subordinates regardless of his injury. The two vice-captains shook their heads. They just vomited some blood, and it wouldn't be fatal. Kuchiki Byakuya glanced at Shiruro Yukitake and asked lightly, "Why are you here?" Shiruro Yukitake pretended to be relaxed and replied, "I just got better. I didn't expect to encounter such a situation as soon as I came out. It seems that my luck is really bad." Luokan was very upset when he saw several of them talking and laughing. He was going to give them another 300 Thunder Wrath, but unfortunately the system told him that the rage value was not enough to use. This is the first time that Luo Chen has encountered such a situation. He has to rely on anger to launch his ultimate move. He feels like there are 10,000 grass and mud horses galloping in his heart, and past. Suddenly, Kuchiki Byakuya was half kneeling on the ground, using his Zanpakuto to support his body to avoid his complete collapse. "Hurry up and eat this." Yukitake Shiryu also took out a pill for Kuchiki Byakuya to eat. Luokan frowned. He finally defeated Kuchiki Byakuya, but he couldn't recover so easily. "I'll be your opponent." Shiryu Yukitake stood in front of Byakuya Kuchiki. Shiryu Yukitake had a shocked expression on his face when he saw Luokan. His pupils dilated, and he said in disbelief, "You really didn't die. It's great, but why did you do this?" Luokan was really dumbfounded by Shiryu's question, but he quickly realized that he was speaking to Luokan, the god of death. "I'm really sorry, the Luokan you knew before is dead, and I'm not him." Luokan said indifferently. He already knew from memory that the relationship between Shiro Ukiba and Luokan, the god of death, was good, but he didn't want to let Shiruro Yukitake have a good relationship. Misunderstood what? Byakuya Kuchiki stood up slowly, and after hearing Shiryu Yukitake's words, doubts appeared in his eyes, and he asked, "Is he the legendary god of death?" Shiryu Yukitake nodded vigorously, and began to tell the glorious deeds of the god of death. Luokan twitched the corner of his mouth in embarrassment. He actually said that he was a legend. Doesn't this mean that he has passed away? It's too much. No, it turns out that Mr. Luokan is so powerful. Huataro's eyes were full of admiration after hearing the deeds of the god of death Luokan. Kuchiki Byakuya finally knew why he couldn't beat Luokan, so that's what happened. "We don't want to fight with you. As long as you let go of Rukia, everything is fine. Believe that I can save my subordinates," Shiro Yukitake said sincerely. Luokan shook his head. As Rukia's eldest brother, he wanted to kill her, so there was no god of death to believe in. "Although I know you are a good god of death, this cannot change my decision. I must take Rukia," Luo Chen said firmly. Just when the atmosphere was at its most tense, Ichigo descended from the sky and arrived directly in front of Rukia. "Ah!" Ichigo shouted loudly, landing on his face with a bang. Luokan turned his head to look at Ichigo, full of doubts in his heart. Ichigo quickly got up and saw Rukia saying proudly, "I'm here to save you, so hurry up and cry with gratitude." Chapter 952. Rukia stood up and punched Ichigo, shouting loudly, "You almost hit me, thank you so much." Originally, Rukia was staying right behind Luo Chen, but Ichigo suddenly fell from the sky and almost hit her. Ichigo touched the bag on his head and shouted loudly, "Is this your attitude towards your savior? Hurry up and thank me. My benefactor is a ghost." Rukia and Ichigo quarreled with each other, and the atmosphere suddenly became relaxed. Luo Chen couldn't help laughing as he watched Rukia recover, and Kuchiki Byakuya's eyes flashed with excitement, but he soon returned to normal. "You are the acting death god, please persuade Luokan," Shiryu Yukitake shouted to Ichigo here. Ichigo heard someone tell him to stop arguing with Rukia, and turned to look at Kuchiki Byakuya and Yukitake Shuru. What are you trying to persuade him? He has a bad temper. Ichigo put the zanpakudo around his neck and said with disgust. Luokan raised his fist silently, really wanting to punch down. When did I lose my temper, and why did you fly over from the sky? Luo Chen had many questions in his heart. Ichigo turned his head excitedly and shouted loudly, "It's not your nine tails good idea to throw me over, it's all your fault." Luo Chen was a little stupid when Ichigo yelled at him like that, and a second later, he burst into laughter. You were thrown over by the nine tails. You must have hindered the nine tails from fighting. It's so funny, ha ha ha. Ichigo didn't like to be laughed at, so when he raised his zanpakudo, he would attack Luokan. Luokan is also very flexible to dodge, and a few people around can't help laughing when they hear that Ichigo was thrown over. You guys are not allowed to laugh. Ichigo couldn't attack Luo Chen, but that didn't mean he couldn't attack the enemy. Kuchiki Byakuya looked at Ichigo indifferently and provocatively said, "What do you want to do?" Naturally, Ichigo wanted to defeat them and take Rukia away, but seeing Kuchiki Byakuya's body covered with typhoid fever became disdainful again. Che, he's just a dying person who dares to laugh at me. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Ichigo didn't want to take advantage of people's dangers, so he asked Kuchiki Byakuya to step aside quickly, otherwise he would be rude. Kuchiki Byakuya was severely attacked, but with Shiruro Yukitake's treatment, he had a chance of winning even against Ichigo. Where did Kuchiki Byakuya go? Zanpakudo quickly came to Ichigo and slashed mercilessly. 0-0. Ichigo's reaction was also enhanced. Feeling murderous, he quickly picked up the zanpakudo to block it, but he still suffered a little damage. Next time I will definitely be able to block your attack, Ichigo said firmly, his eyes fixed on Kuchiki Byakuya. Kuchiki Byakuya glanced at Gogo and admitted that his speed had increased, but it was still not worth mentioning compared to his shunpo. Ichigo, be careful, Luokan reminded loudly. He had already sensed Kuchiki Byakuya's attack. Ichigo was stunned for a moment, but as a result, he received a heavy blow from Kuchiki Byakuya. 100 million. Chapter 953. Ichigo was slashed in the shoulder, and blood kept flowing out. The injury he suffered from the battle with Shinmu Jonpachi just now has not fully recovered, and now he is really unbearable to be attacked again. Kuchiki Byakuya raised the zanpakudo again, aimed at Ichigo and stabbed it hard. At the critical moment, Luo Chen blocked Ichigo and raised his hand to condense Reiatsu in front of him, and a light blue barrier appeared. Zzz. Kuchiki 303 Byakuya's zanpakudo collided violently with the barrier, and with a slight force of falling dust, the barrier suppressed Kuchiki Byakuya back. Kuchiki Byakuya frowned, facing Luo Chen. He had no chance of winning. Captain Kuchiki, don't fight anymore. Shiro Yukitake saw that Kuchiki was going to rush forward to fight and quickly pulled him to dissuade him. Now Luokan didn't even use the zanpakudo, so he just used Reiatsu to force Kuchiki Byakuya to this point, and this battle was meaningless at all. Luokan looked at Kuchiki Byakuya proudly, raised his eyebrows, stretched out his fingers and hooked it. Continue to let the horse come, no matter how many times I will stop it. Kuchiki Byakuya was very angry when he looked at Luo Chen's smug look, and he was about to prepare for a solution. Suddenly, Ichigo rushed in front of Luo Chen. Next, I will be your opponent. I will definitely save Rukia with my own hands. Ichigo looked at Byakuya Kuchiki firmly. Although Ichigo was seriously injured, he raised the zanpakudo with tenacious willpower. Luokan frowned. He really didn't know whether Ichigo was here to save people or die, so he pulled Ichigo back. Don't make trouble, I'm having a good time fighting with Captain Kuchiki. Luokan wanted Kuchiki to know his strength. Ichigo was also excited and wanted to rescue Rukia with his own power. It's my business to save Rukia, don't meddle in your own business. I'm nosy. Luokan shook his head. If he hadn't rescued Ichigo many times and treated him, I still don't know how many times he died. Kuchiki Byakuya watched Luokan and Ichigo arguing and said impatiently, enough, since you both want to save Rukia, let's come together. Huh, Ichigo felt that he was looked down upon by Kuchiki Byakuya, and immediately turned his head to look at him, giving up the argument with Luokan. Luokan also turned his attention to Deadwood. He didn't like to be underestimated. Since Captain Kuchiki said so, I'm welcome. Luo Chen said lightly, releasing an amazing spiritual pressure. The atmosphere in front of the confession room became dignified, and all the gods of death in the spiritual court could feel the spiritual pressure of Luokan. Just when Luo Chen was about to kill Kuchiki Byakuya, Yi Yi appeared. Yike! Luokan cried out in confusion when he saw Yike blocking Kuchiki Byakuya, not knowing what she was doing. Ichigo hadn't seen Yoichi's real appearance yet, so he was puzzled for a while, but he quickly reacted. Hurry away, don't stop me from slashing this indifferent guy. An astonishing scene appeared. Yi Yi took out a dagger from his body, ran towards Ichigo quickly, and stabbed Ichigo in the chest without hesitation. Ichigo! Luokan cried out in surprise. He didn't expect Ichigo to be killed by his own people. Ichigo didn't think about it either, and there was still doubt in his eyes. Yike stabbed the dagger inward with force. Ichigo finally lost consciousness, and his body lay on Yike's body. XXX. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 954. Hey, what are you doing? Luo Chen asked loudly. He had always regarded Yi Yi as a partner, but he never thought that Yi Yi would betray him. Yike ignored Luokan, turned to Kuchiki Byakuya and said, I know Ichigo can't beat you right now. If you give me 3 days, I will definitely make Ichigo a being that surpasses you. Kuchiki Byakuya's eyes flickered. He would not choose to let the prey in front of him run away. Kuchiki Byakuya didn't speak. He launched Shunpo and rushed towards Yike. Yike's skills are also very sensitive. When he saw Kuchiki 22 Byakuya disappearing, he quickly launched Shunpo, and the two started a chase on the bridge. Shish! The speed of Kuchiki Byakuya and Yike is so fast that they cannot be detected by the naked eye. Fortunately, Luokan has a strong spiritual pressure, and can sense each other's position through their spiritual pressure. The eyes of the two gods of death, Toru Chinyan and Katsuban Sentaro, were full of confusion. The two of them had tried their best to observe the battle between Yike and Kuchiki Byakuya, but Mao didn't even see it. After some fighting, Yaichi got a little better and fled behind Yukitake Shuru and the others with Ichigo. Luokan, I'll leave the rest to you, see you at our old place. After Yi Yi finished speaking, he ran away with Ichigo. Luo Chen's face was stunned. This dramatic scene happened so fast that he couldn't even react. Dust heart filled with doubts, she glanced at Rukia behind her and said lightly, Don't worry, I will definitely save you. After saying that, Luokan picked up Rukia and prepared to leave, but Shuru Yukitake stepped forward to stop Luokan and firmly asked him to keep Rukia behind. Do you want to fight too? Luo Chen didn't mind using violence to make these gods of death surrender. Shiruro Yukitake naturally knew Luokan's power, so he only persuaded him, but if Luokan insisted on doing this, he would risk his life to keep Rukia behind. Then don't blame me for being rude. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he rushed out. Rukia spoke when Luokan passed Kuchiki Byakuya. Please leave me here, this is the sin I should bear. Luo Chen was stunned for a moment, stopped attacking, and looked down at Rukia. What are you talking about? We made a special trip to save you. Don't you want to come back to life with us? Rukia naturally wanted to leave with Luokan and the others, but if she went back, it would cause them trouble, so she couldn't be so willful. Shuru Yukitake also saw the opportunity to persuade Luokan. Don't worry, as the captain of Rukia, I will never let her die like this. I promise you with my life. Luo Chen hesitated in his heart, opened his mouth to say something, but didn't say anything. Since that's the case, I'll hand her over to you, Captain Fukuju. Luo Chen said and put Rukia down, turned around and took Ganju to leave. By the way, that guy was coerced by us, so don't embarrass him, or I won't let you go. Luokan was naturally referring to Hanataro. Shuru Yukitaki nodded vigorously, and he assured Luokan that Hanataro would be fine. Chapter 99 Against Shinmu Janba. Luo Chen left quickly with Ganju, and came to the place where Nine Tails and Shinmu Kenpachi fought. .. Chapter 955. Nine Tails, let's go. Luo Chen greeted him lightly. He didn't want to get entangled with a militant like Shinmu Janpachi. Juwei ran towards Luokan quickly, while Shinmu Janpachi pursued with all his strength. No matter where Luokan ran, Shinmu Janpachi would find him. You're too clingy, aren't you? Luo Chen pouted in dissatisfaction. Shinmu Kenpachi laughed proudly, raised his Zanpakudo and said to Luokan, if you don't fight me, I will keep chasing you to the end of the world. Luokan felt a chill all over his body. If it was a beautiful woman who said that to him, Luokan's heart might still feel very happy, but Shinmu Janpachi's face is really indescribable. HMPH, come if you can catch up. Luo Chen still didn't believe that his speed could not get rid of Shinmu Janpachi. Shinmu Kenpachi stood still, as if he knew in his heart that this would happen. At this time, Bachinliu appeared, blinking playful eyes and pulling Luokan's clothes. Ghost, are you looking for someone like him? Yachinliu pointed at Ganju and asked Luokan. Luokan nodded immediately, and quickly asked Yakianu if he knew of Orahime's whereabouts. Bachinliu clapped her hands happily, ran to Shinmu Janpachi's side, and said proudly, look, I just know that girl is useful. Xiao Ba, do you want to praise me? Shen Mujian Baha laughed. When he saw Bachianru bring Orihime back, he felt troublesome, but he didn't expect it to come in handy here. Orihime was caught by you. Luokan frowned. It seemed that if she did not defeat Shinmu Kenpachi, Orihime would not be saved. Luokan put Ganju aside, and let the Nine Tails take good care of him. Seeing that Luo Chen finally had the will to fight, Shenmu Janba praised Bachinliu and laughed happily. It's great, Xiaoba hasn't been so happy for a long time. The ghost must make Xiaoba even happier. After Yachinliu finished speaking, he ran to the side to watch the battle. Luokan actually didn't want to fight Shinmu Kenpachi, but he had to fight for Orihime. If you let Orihime go now, I can let you go. Luo Chen said firmly. He didn't know if Shenmu Janba could withstand the pressure bullet. Shenmu Janba rushed towards Luokan without caring. There was no opponent in the entire S-Lingting who could fight. It was not easy for him to wait for an opponent to let go of the pregnancy so easily. Diaresis, come on. If you can beat me, try it. Shinmu Kenpachi raised his Zanpakudo high and shouted loudly. Luokan knew that Shinmu Kenpachi's Zanpakudo had always been in a state of initial solution, so naturally he would not be merciful. Raising his hand was a Reiatsu bullet. However, the concentration of the spiritual particles in the Reiatsu bullets is not very high. Shenmujian split the Reiatsu bullet with a knife, and then exploded behind him. This kind of attack can't make me happy. Come with all your strength. Shinmu Janpachi was still rushing towards Luokan. Luokan continued to release the Reiki bullets, this time increasing the concentration a lot. Shinmu Kenpachi's Zanpakudo exploded as soon as it touched the Reiatsu bullet. There was a loud bang, and a puff of black smoke rose. Luokan knew that such an attack would still be unable to defeat Shinmu Janpachi, so he quickly deployed a spiritual barrier in front of him. When? Chapter 956. Shinmu Janpachi rushed out of the smoke, used all his strength to slash at Luokan, and slashed to the top of the barrier. Haha, what are you? It's really frustrating to start using this kind of ghost way at the same time. Shen Mujian said grimly. Luokan doesn't care whether he is happy or not, it is the most important thing that he is not injured, and he is also trying to shorten the distance with Shinmu Kenpachi. Luo Chen's left hand condensed the spiritual pressure, and without hesitation, he threw a punch, hitting Shenmue Janpachi's stomach hard. Shenmue Janpachi was hit by this blow and retreated more than 10 meters before stopping. I'm so happy. It's been a long time since no one has been able to make me back off. I'm so happy today. Shenmue Kenpachi had burnt marks on his stomach, but he didn't show any pain. Luokan smiled awkwardly, feeling that Shenmue Kenpachi was really a strange god of death. As long as I defeat you, will you be able to let Orihime go? Then I'm welcome, Luo Chen said, and quickly rushed towards Shenmue Janpachi. Shenmue Janpachi was not the only one who was beaten, and rushed towards Luokan with both legs. Shenmue Janpachi and Luo Chen collided with two fists, fighting the level of spiritual pressure. The huge Reiatsu shattered the surrounding walls, and the houses showed signs of collapse. Come on Xiaoba, Baekhyun stayed aside and cheered Shenmue Janpachi loudly. Seeing Shenmue Janpachi's happy face, Luokan felt a burst of nausea in his heart, and subconsciously increased his strength and pushed Shenmue Janpachi back. With a bang, the surrounding houses collapsed. To be honest, Luokan felt a little distressed when he saw the houses around him collapse. Although it wasn't his house, he didn't like destroying the environment either. I was distracted during the battle, let me chop to death. Shenmue Kenpachi swung his Zanpakudo and chopped down at Luokan. Luo Chen stretched his hands back, his chest stopped, releasing a more powerful spiritual pressure, and then raised his fists to hit Shenmue Kenpachi. With a bang, Shenmue Janpachi flew out more than 100 meters this time. Ah, Xiaoba, wait for me. Bachenliu saw that Shenmue Janba was sent flying and quickly chased after him, and his effort was gone in a flash. Luokan wanted to stop Bachenliu before it was too late, and he regretted trying so hard, and now Orihime couldn't save him. Suddenly, the voice of Yakianu came from a distance. Don't worry, Ghost, that woman is very good here with us. Next time, let's make Xiaoba happy. Luokan smiled bitterly, looked at Gansu next to him and decided to take him back to rest first. As for Orihime, she believed that she would be fine. In this way, Luokan took Ganju back to the house of Luokan, the god of death, and Yi had been waiting for a long time. Why did you come back so slowly? Is there any problem on the way? Yi looked at Luo Chen suspiciously and found that there was dust on his body. Luokan is really indescribable. Originally, he wanted to bring Orihime back, but who made Shenmue Kenpachi fly away without paying attention? Yi couldn't help laughing after hearing Luokan's experience, laughing at Luokan for not knowing how to measure. Luokan turned away from Yi and didn't say anything. He didn't want to save everyone, and why Yi suddenly brought back Ichigo, which made him very curious. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 957. Yi's expression suddenly became serious, which made Luo Chen startled. He was smiling just now, but his face changed in the blink of an eye, which really confirmed that old saying. What's wrong with you? Luo Chen didn't say anything yet. Why did Yi become so serious? Yi said seriously, I told you before that Captain Aizen was killed. Luokan nodded. Yi told him about this, but what does it have to do with him? It should be the infighting in the S-Lingting. Yi continued. I did a little research at the S-Shinting just now, and found that Aizen's death seems to be related to Ichigenmaru, and that Rukia's death penalty is also related to him. So you mean that you want me to investigate Shinmaru? Luo Chen said lightly, thinking that Yi was just joking with him. Unexpectedly, Yi nodded seriously. Aren't you kidding me? Even if this matter has something to do with Ichigenmaru, their mission is just to rescue Rukia. As for what happens to S-Lingting, it has nothing to do with them. Yi shook his head and slowly told Rukia's situation. It turns out that Rukia's body has a collapsible jade, which was invented by Urahara Kazuki. However, some people coveted the power of Bengyu, so Urahara Kazuki reluctantly hid Bengyu in Rukia's body. Ha! Luo Chen was suddenly startled by the huge amount of information. Looking at Yi, he didn't know what to say. You also have a share in Bengyu's invention, don't try to run away. Yi said excitedly, looking at Luo Chen's expression. Luokan hurriedly inquired about the memory of Luokan, the god of death, but found nothing about helping Urahara Kazuki invent the Bengyu. You lied to me. Luo Chen squinted to look at Yi. He didn't want to be taken advantage of. Although Yi was seen through, he pretended to be calm and replied, how could I lie to you? It may be that your memory has not fully recovered, so you don't have to try too hard to recall it. Luokan pouted. Seeing Yi like this, he knew that he was lying to him. Forget it, let's investigate, even if you're busy doing this. Luo Chen looked at the sick patients in the room. Anyway, they couldn't do anything recently, and he was worried that he had nothing to do. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 XXX. Yi laughed immediately after hearing this, and approached Luo Chen as if to please. I knew you were the best. Yi said with a smile, while leaving a sweet kiss on Luo Chen's cheek. Luokan's heart was pounding, and he quickly kept his distance from Yi. How to investigate, you should have a direction, right? Luo Chen quickly changed the subject in order to avoid Yi's further flirting. 0. Yi became serious again, and told Luo Chen what she had investigated. Hinamo Dao is the last god of death who has seen Captain Aizen, maybe you can get some information from her. Luo Chen nodded. Yi continued. You have to be careful when you approach her, that guy Tushiro values Hina Mori Dao very much. Ah, I see. Luokan smiled wryly, he really didn't know what Yi was thinking, but he wouldn't do anything to Hina Sen Dao. Yi smiled proudly, showing a look in his eyes that I understand everything. Cut tilde, Luo Chen glanced at his mouth displeased ly. 100 million. Chapter 958. At this time, Ichigo slowly opened his eyes and saw Yi was very excited. Why did you bring me back? I'll be Rukia soon. Ichigo shouted loudly. Yi knocked Ichigo to the ground with one fist, and replied disdainfully, I want to knock down Kuchiki Byakuya after saving you. What a foolish dream, stop joking. Ichigo was so angry at Yoichi's words that he got up and raised his fist and rushed over. Where is Ichigo, who is Yi's opponent? I saw that Yi was bound by 1 or 3 times, and the one who tied it was a miserable one. Ah, Yi, you don't have to be so exaggerated. Luo Chen watched Ichigo being tied into a zongzi, and the corners of his mouth twitched twice. Yi waved his hand indifferently. Who made this little brat want to be brave? Even if he has no ability, he still wants to fight when his body is already like this. Luo Chen looked at Ichigo and sighed helplessly. Although Yi treated him, he was still bleeding after the injury, and because Yi's beating just now made his wound open again. Luokan took out a pill from his backpack and handed it to Ichigo to eat. Ichigo ate the wound on his body and miraculously began to recover, which surprised Yi. What did you feed him? Luo Chen proudly held up the medicine bottle and explained that this was his discovery. Luokan accidentally discovered an herbal medicine in S-Lingting. This herbal medicine was very beautiful, and Luokan took it off. As a result, the system rewarded him with a medicine refining book. The medicine refining book is recording the medicinal pills that this herbal medicine can cultivate. Linxedin can quickly heal body wounds, but it can't be taken continuously, maybe once a week. Luokan said proudly. Luokan gave Luokan a high look again at night. He originally thought that Luokan would become a different form after losing his memory, and his ability would become lower. But his ability is still so strong, no matter what aspect he can do the best. Luo Chen waved his hand in front of Yi, and asked suspiciously, What's wrong with you? Were you surprised by my medicinal pill? Yi Yaikuchi burst out laughing out loud. If Luo Chen was in the past, he wouldn't have said such a thing. Yes, I was fascinated by you. Ichigo couldn't stand it any longer, and protested excitedly, asking Yaiki to untie him. It's okay to untie you, but I will give you special training for 3 days, are you ready? Yi looked at Ichigo seriously. She wanted Ichigo to learn how to untie. Ichigo is naturally prepared. As long as he can become stronger, he will not care about anything, and it is to save Rukia, he will not leave the hotel. Then what can I do? Luokan asked lightly. Yi turned his head and said to Luo Chen, you just need to investigate what I just handed you over. Ichigo will leave it to me. I promise to let him learn how to solve it. Seeing the smile on Yi's face, Luo Chen suddenly felt uneasy, turned to look at Ichigo, and silently prayed for him. Then I'll go, Luo Chen said and quickly ran out of the room. I only heard Ichigo's tragic cry coming from behind, and Luo Chen silently said sorry in his heart. He didn't have any cure for Yi, and only hoped that Ichigo could quickly learn to understand. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 959. Luokan came to the outside of the house to look for Hina Sentao to inquire about the situation, but a group of death gods came across. Do you know where Hina Sentao is? Luo Chen asked directly. The gods of death were not suspicious either. After all, Captain Aizen's death had a great impact on the forest, and there were many gods of death who wanted to take the opportunity to please Hinamori Dao. In the cell, but looking at you, there is no hope. Now in the cell. This god of death is simply a talker. Luo Chen really can't wait for him to finish speaking, so he can only leave first. Luokan quickly came to the outside of the cell. The cell door here is made of a special kind of spirit, and it is absolutely impossible to break in without the key. However, this is only for the 22-year-old god of death. Shang Luokan has a super powerful spiritual pressure. The god of death would not be blocked by such a door. With a bang, Luo Chen kicked the door open, and then walked inside confidently. Who are you? Xin Dao's eyes were a little dull, looking at Luo Chen's lukewarm questioning. Luokan smiled softly and replied, it's the first time we met, please take care of me. I'm here to investigate the cause of Captain Aizen's death. I hope you can tell me the whole story. Hinamori Dao's dull eyes suddenly lit up the moment she heard Aizen's name, grabbing Luokan excitedly. You must help me find the murderer who killed Captain Aizen, I beg you. Luokan didn't expect Hina Sentao to be so excited, and he was also full of doubts that Hina Sentao would be imprisoned. By the way, why are you here? Do you want me to rescue you? Luo Chen thought that if he rescued her, he might gain her trust and get more information. Can you really take me out? Hinamori Dao was even more excited. She wanted to kill Ichigenmaru now, so she naturally wanted to leave here, but the chain in her hand suppressed her Reiatsu. Luo Chen pointed to the door and said lightly, of course, you can leave with the door open, I won't stop you. Xiao Sendao immediately thanked Luo Chen and ran towards the gate. Unexpectedly, Hinamori Dao ran into the guard as soon as she ran out. As a result, Hinamori Dao, who was unable to use her power, was captured again. Hey, are you back again? Luo Chen was about to catch up when he saw the guard dragging young Sendao back. The guard was stunned when he saw Luo Chen. He quickly put on a fighting look, and notified the rest of the guards to come to support. Hinatamo resisted desperately, but it didn't work at all, and the guard even increased her strength to control Hinamori. Please help me, please. Hina Sentao's eyes filled with tears, and she cried out to Luokan for help. The corner of Luokan's mouth twitched, and he couldn't ignore the girl's cry for help. He shouted, if you don't want to get hurt, let her go quickly, or I'll be polite. Guards also have their own responsibilities, how dare you let go of Hina Morita? Luo Chen didn't talk nonsense to the guard, he raised his fist and quickly appeared in front of the guard, hitting him hard. Plop! The guard was lying on the ground, but Hinamori Dao was still unable to move under the guard's shackles. Broken! Luo Chen stretched out his hand and shouted at Hina Sendao. The restraint on Hinata's body instantly disappeared, which surprised Hinamori for a while. Unraveling the shackles of ghosts requires a corresponding spirit of words, and Luo Chen only said one word to untie it, which is really amazing. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 960. Who are you and why do you have such power? Hinamori Dao became vigilant. Luokan said lightly, Me. I'm just entrusted by others to help you solve Captain Aizen's affairs, don't get me wrong. When Hinamori Dao heard Aizen's name, her head would buzz, and her thinking ability would also be short-circuited, so she directly believed Luokan. Then I'll ask you, the murderer must be Ichi Yinmaru, please kill him to avenge Captain Aizen. Hinamori Dao said excitedly. Luokan shrugged his shoulders and asked Hinamori Dao to tell everything that happened. He wanted to know what happened. At this time, some guards appeared outside the cell, and they all picked up the Zanpakuto to face Luokan. Hina Sentao stood in front of Luokan, quickly gestured with both hands, and spoke the spirit of words in her mouth. With a bang, Hinamori Dao knocked out part of the guards. You dare to do it, now your crime is more serious, hurry up and capture it tilde. The guards became vigilant, and they were about to launch an attack. Hina Sentao grabbed Luo Chen and ran out, asking Luo Chen to leave quickly. And you? Hinamori Dao replied. Don't worry about me, please help Captain Aizen to avenge, that guy Ichi Yinmaru must not let go. As Hinamori Dao was talking, the guards chased after him. Stop, don't run. Daochi rushed towards Luo Chen, and Hina Sentao tried her best to block it, while at the same time shouting at Luo Chen, hurry up and run. Luo Chen smiled lightly, grabbed Hinamori Dao behind him, and released the Reiatsu. Bang bang bang. The guards were stunned by Luokan's Reiatsu and fell to the ground. Hinamori looked at Luokan in surprise, her eyes shone with light, she knew that it would be difficult to avenge Captain Aizen with her own strength, but with Luokan's power, it would definitely be possible. It's amazing, please give me a helping hand. Hina Sentao suddenly knelt in front of Luo Chen. Luo Chen was startled by Hina Moritao's reaction, and hurriedly reached out to help her up, but Toshiro's voice came from the side. Let go of Hinamori Dao. Toshiro excitedly grabbed Hinamori Dao back, then stared at Luokan vigilantly, and took out his Zanpakuto to prepare for battle. Ah, have you misunderstood something? The character Luo Chen least wanted to see appeared spear. Just like what Yoichi said, Toshiro became extremely excited when he met Hinamori Momo, and basically his ability to judge was lost. Toshiro doesn't care about that much, he only believes what he sees with his own eyes, and will never allow others to bully Hinamori Dao. You listen to me. Luokan didn't even finish his words, and Toshiro rushed over with his Zanpakuto. Toshiro's imposing manner is compelling, and his attacks are also very neat. He completely regards Luokan as a bad guy, good Zhao, thinking that he wants to do something to Hina Moritao. Luo Chen didn't want things to become troublesome, so he hurriedly dodged. What's the situation? Why is there a death god here? Matsumoto Ranju said in surprise. She was puzzled when she saw Dong Shileng suddenly running out, but now she understands when she sees Luo Chen. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 961. Luokan waved at Matsumoto Ranju and smiled politely. Toshiro angrily pointed at Luokan with his Zanpakuto, and said loudly, hurry up and stay away from Hinamori Dao. If you dare to hurt him, I will chase you to the ends of the earth. Luokan shrugged his shoulders, and just as he was about to explain to Toshiro, he rushed over, and Luokan immediately assumed a fighting stance. Stop Toshiro. Hina Sentao stood in front of Luokan, and opened her hands to prevent Toshiro from hurting Luokan. XXX. A surprised look appeared in Toshiro's eyes, and he stood still. Hinamori Dao, don't be fooled by him, this guy is a brigade of disaster. Toshiro had already obtained information on the brigade of disaster through other gods of death. Hina Moritao was also shocked when she heard the news, but she had an inexplicable trust in Luokan, thinking that he would not betray her. No matter what, you are not allowed to hurt him, you hurry up and leave it to me. Young Sendao said to Luokan. Luokan nodded, knowing that Toshiro would not do anything to Hinamori, so he turned and left. Unexpectedly, Toshiro asked Matsumoto Ranju to stop Hinamori Momo, and he chased after him. Stop, I have to catch you today, hurry up and tell me what exactly you did to Hinamori Dao. Toshiro asked excitedly. Luokan smiled bitterly, he clearly did nothing, yet he was so wronged. Seeing that Luokan was silent, Toshiro raised his Zanpakuto to attack Luokan, and the cold light of Zanpakuto became even sharper under the moonlight. Luo Chen quickly activated the power of the Nine Tails, and used the tail of the Nine Tails to block Toshiro's attack. I've said it before, I didn't do anything to Hina Sentao, why don't you believe it? Luo Chen sighed helplessly. Toshiro has now determined that Luokan has bewitched Hinamori Dao. No matter how he explains to Shiro, he won't believe it. Luo Chen looked at Dong Shilang's firm appearance and had to fight. After all, he wasn't rich in time. Luokan threw off Toshiro forcefully, and then summoned Nine Tails to let it attack freely, while Luokan used Reiatsu bullets to attack. Boom boom boom. The Reiatsu bullets kept shooting out, but Toshiro didn't have the strength to fight back at all, and it took a lot of effort to dodge. Luokan said proudly, how about it, don't you believe what I said now? If I want to do something to Hina Sentao, you can't stop me. Toshiro's brows furrowed tightly, he really didn't have time to fight back in the face of Luo Chen's continuous attack. Luokan was also secretly relieved, if it weren't for a place with a high spiritual child like S-Lingting, how would he dare to use such a fighting method? Don't be too complacent. The prismatic ice formation. As Toshiro shouted, ice layers appeared around him to block Luo Chen's attack. The corner of Luokan's mouth twitched. If he wanted to use such a weak layer of ice to block his attack, he would really underestimate his attack. With a bang, the ice layer shattered. The ice dragon spins its tail. Dong Shilang slashed forward vigorously, and a ferocious ice dragon quickly attacked in the direction of Luo Chen, freezing everything he went. Nine Tails. Luo Chen called out easily. Nine Tails immediately released a fireball, and the ice dragon collided with the fireball, and the fireball burned out the ice dragon's body in an instant. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 962. How about it, do you still want to challenge? You can't beat this move alone. Luo Chen said lightly. Toshiro also felt unprecedented pressure, but he had to fight to the end no matter what for Hinamori Dao. Icicles of birds. Toshiro swung his Zanpakuto, and 6 icicles immediately appeared in the air, attacking Luokan from different directions. Luokan immediately launched a powerful spiritual pressure. The icicle hit the spiritual pressure and there was a violent explosion, but Luokan did not take any damage. Toshiro felt shocked by this powerful Reiatsu, and the Zanpakuto in his hand suddenly fell to the ground. That's it, I'll take a step first, I hope we don't see each other again. Luo Chen said and ran away. Not long after Luokan left, Matsumoto Ranju chased after him. Seeing Toshiro's fearful expression, he quickly asked what happened. This kind of Reiatsu is impossible, absolutely impossible. Toshiro said these things to himself, but Matsumoto Ranju didn't understand what he meant. Suddenly, Toshiro turned around and asked, how's Hina Moritao, is there any problem with her? Matsumoto Ranki nodded. She put Hinamori Momo back in jail, and she also gave Aizen's suicide note to Hinamori Momo. Let's go, I want to know more information about this calamity. Toshiro Sadrin out. Matsumoto Ranju shook his head helplessly. He has nothing to do with this genius. I really hope he can sympathize with her. After Luokan ran away, he came to Ichigenmaru's residence. According to Hinamori Dao, the probability of Ichigenmaru killing Aizen was really high. However, there is one thing that makes Luokan very suspicious, that is, in Luokan's memory, Aizen's strength is much stronger than Shigenmaru. And the battle between the two of them will definitely cause a lot of commotion, but the fact is that Aizen's body was discovered the next day, and no one even knows when he died. This matter is really troublesome, Luo Chen said while rubbing his chin. Luokan carefully surveyed around Ichijimaru's residence, and suddenly found Kira Izuru. Luokan thought about it for a while, and asked the system to turn herself into the appearance of Hinamori Dao, and then walked in front of Kira Izuru. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Kira Izuru was very surprised to see the appearance of Hinamori Dao, and excitedly stepped forward and dragged Luokan to a place where no one was there. Why are you here? It's a serious crime to escape from prison without permission. Kira asked anxiously. Luokan couldn't help laughing when she saw Ji Liang Yihei's anxious look. It seems that she found another crush. Their relationship is really interesting. 0. Kira Izuru felt relieved when she saw that Hinamori Momo could still laugh now, and there was a hint of blush on her face. Yizuru, I have something I want to ask you, can you answer me seriously? Luo Chen asked in the appearance of a young forest peach. Kira Izuru nodded vigorously. Naturally he would not have any reservations in the face of Hinamori Momo. Luokan was fortunate in his heart that the right person to transform this time was really chosen, so that he could easily find the flaws in Ichijimaru. What was Ichijimaru doing on the night that Captain Aizen died? 100 million. Chapter 963. Kira Izuru was stunned when he heard this question. He knew that Hinamori Momo was very worried about Aizen's death, but he shouldn't be so suspicious of Captain Ichijimaru. I'm sorry, I can't answer this question, it's the captain's personal privacy, and I don't know. A sad look appeared on Kira Izuru's face. He was afraid that his answer would make Hinamori Momo excited and attack Captain Ichijimaru again. In that case, her guilt would be even greater. However, Hinamori Dao's reaction was beyond Kira Izuru's imagination. Luokan smiled faintly, said thank you to Kira Izuru and left. Wait tilde, Ji Liangyi hurriedly ran to the direction Luo Chen left, only to find that the figure disappeared in a blink of an eye. This made Izuru Kira startled, afraid that Hinamori Momo would really attack Captain Ichijimaru, so she hurried to check on Ichijimaru's situation. Dang dang. Come in. Ichijimaru's voice came from the room. Kira Izuru opened the door and was relieved to see Ichijimaru reading a book in the room, and the expression on her face relaxed a lot. Is there something wrong? You look nervous. Ichijimaru narrowed his eyes and smiled. Kira Izuru didn't dare to let Ichijimaru know that Hinamori Momo was here, so he quickly waved his hand, and left after a little panic. After Kira Izuru left, Luo Chen stepped aside and smiled proudly. It turned out that Luokan had been looking for Ichijimaru's whereabouts, but the place was too big, and he couldn't find it, so he had to let Kira Izuru lead the way. If he used the normal method, Kira Izuru would definitely fight him, so Luokan turned into the appearance of Hinamori Dao. Don't blame me, I'm here to help you find out the truth. After Luo Chen said something lightly, he walked into Ichijimaru's room. You're finally here, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Ichijimaru looked at Luokan with a smile. At this time, Luokan has become his own appearance. Seeing Ichijimaru's calm expression, he feels that he has the talent to be a bad guy. Since you already know that I'm coming, then hurry up and don't waste your time. Luo Chen said indifferently. He didn't want to talk nonsense with Ichijimaru. Ichijimaru laughed, stood up, picked up the teapot beside him and poured a glass of water. Don't be so nervous, don't you want to know my whereabouts? Since that's the case, let's sit down and talk slowly, Ichijimaru said and handed the water to Luokan. Luokan stared at Ichijimaru vigilantly, and from the look of him, he knew that he must be planning some kind of conspiracy. Why, is the famous Luo Chen also afraid? Are you or not Luo Chen? Ichijimaru's eyes suddenly shot a sharp light. Luokan was shocked for a while. After seeing so many gods of death, Ichijimaru was the first to find out that he was not Luokan, the god of death. Seeing that Ichijimaru was more difficult to deal with than he imagined. Luokan walked in unhurriedly, took the water from Shi-Yinmaru and sat aside with a relaxed expression on his face. We haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect you to become like this. It's too cruel to attack your companion. Luo Chen said lightly. Ichi-Yinmaru laughed and replied, really, I've always been like this, but you didn't know much about me before. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 964. Luokan checked the memory of Luokan, the god of death. Shi-Yinmaru wasn't originally this character, but later, he didn't know what happened, and Shi-Yinmaru's whole personality changed. Let's talk about Captain Aizen. Where were you that night and what were you doing? Is there anyone who can prove it for you? Luokan interrogated Shi-Yinmaru righteously. There was no abnormal expression on Ichi-Yinmaru's face, and he replied plainly, I am reading in the room, and no one can prove it for me. After all, everyone has their own things to do. Luokan looked at Shi-Yinmaru and felt that what he said was not like a lie, but he felt a little weird, as if he knew Aizen would die. 22 inches. You don't seem to be surprised by Captain Aizen's death, do you know something? Luokan continued to ask. Ichi-Yinmaru didn't hide it either, and told Luokan everything they talked about after the meeting. This made Luokan even more puzzled. Obviously, this incident would be detrimental to Shi-Yinwan, but he told himself that this made Luokan feel a big question mark in his heart. Ichi-Yinmaru looked at Luokan with a smile, and said, in order to return my innocence, I have to ask you to investigate the truth of the matter, but who killed Captain Aizen? Luokan stared at Shi-Yinmaru vigilantly, always feeling that he meant something. Oh, yes, I heard that Captain Aizen left a suicide note, but I don't know whose hand it is now. If I get that thing, I might find some clues. Ichi-Yinmaru said and stood. Get up, open the door and let Luokan leave. Luokan didn't hesitate, and walked out of Shi-Yinmaru's room. After talking with Ichi-Yinmaru, he felt that Ichi-Yinmaru must have something to do with this matter, but the murderer might not be him. A suicide note. Where will Captain Aizen's suicide note be? Luo Chen wanted to see what Aizen wrote in the suicide note. Luokan felt that this matter was getting more and more complicated, and there was a huge conspiracy hidden behind it. Suddenly, Luo Chen felt the smell of blood coming from not far away, so he rushed over. This is the central room 46. Luo Chen looked at the closed door with doubts in his heart. According to the memory of the god of death Luokan, this is the place where all gods of death are forbidden to approach. Why is there a bloody smell here? Out of curiosity, Luo Chen walked to the door of the central room 46. Just as he was about to open the door, 2 guards appeared. Luokan quickly took a few steps back. Fortunately, he responded quickly, otherwise the alarm would have been set off. Forget it, there shouldn't be any problems here. Luo Chen said and left. He didn't want to trigger the alarm here to attract death. After Luokan left the 46th room in the center, he returned to the cell of young Moritao, wanting to ask about the suicide note. What Luo Chen didn't expect was that Hina Sendao actually disappeared, and Toshiro happened to rush over. Okay now, Toshiro misunderstood again, thinking that Luokan had let go of Hinamori Dao, and excitedly drew out his Zanpakuto and attacked Luokan. Luo Chen sighed helplessly, and had no choice but to take out his Zanpakuto to attack, raising his 9 tails to block Shimo Toshiro's slash. Ellipsis 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 dot. XXX. Chapter 965. In order to save time, Luo Chen didn't entangle with Toshiro anymore, so he directly let out a huge Reiki bullet and sent Toshiro flying. Captain Ranju Matsumoto ran out from the side, and was very surprised to see Toshiro being defeated, and hurried forward to catch Toshiro. After Toshiro stabilized his pace, he stared at Luokan vigilantly, telling Matsumoto Ranju not to act rashly. But Captain, you. Matsumoto Ranju was even more worried that Toshiro would act rashly. She already felt that Luokan's ability was extremely powerful. Luokan and Toshiro can't have a normal conversation, but they can still talk to Matsumoto Ranki. Do you know where Hinamori Dao ran to? Luo Chen asked Matsumoto Ranju. Matsumoto Ranju shook her head. If she knew, she wouldn't be here. Luokan's brows furrowed tightly, and the only person who may have seen Lan Ran's suicide note is gone. Someone must have done something. By the way, I gave Hina Momo a letter from Captain Aizen. I wonder if she knows something. Morimoto Ranju said. Luokan and Dongshilang said in unison, why is such an important thing only being said now? Matsumoto Ranju looked at the two in surprise and smiled awkwardly. She must know who the murderer is, so she went to avenge Captain Aizen, but who would it be? Luokan began to wonder. Tushiro said firmly, it must be Ichi Yinmaru, that guy and Aizen have never been able to come up. Luokan denied it, but he didn't think Ichi Yinmaru would do such a thing, otherwise he wouldn't let himself find that suicide note. However, Tushiro had already run away. In order to ensure the safety of Hinamori Dao, he had to take the lead in killing Ichi Jinmaru, so as to keep Hinamori Dao safe. Captain! Matsumoto Ranju shouted loudly after seeing Tushiro suddenly running out. She was also very helpless. Luo Chen said lightly, you hurry up and catch up, it's not that simple. Sean, you have to be careful. Matsumoto Ranju nodded and chased after him. Luokan closed his eyes and tried hard to find the location of the young forest peach. Because the resentment of the young forest peach was very strong, Luokan really found it. Yes, fallen dust moved quickly. 3 minutes later, Luokan found the young centaur, and when the young centaur saw Luokan's face, there was a look of pain on his face. Diaresis, what's wrong with you? Luokan asked suspiciously. Hinamori said tearfully, why did he kill Captain Aizen? It's really unforgivable. Luokan hurriedly asked Hinamori to take out Captain Aizen's suicide note, but Hinamatsu couldn't listen to Luokan's words anymore. Captain Aizen, I'm going to take revenge for you, I will never forgive him. Saying that, Xiao Sendao ran out, and Luo Chen was afraid of hurting Xiao Sendao, good enough, so he didn't dare to stop it. You must know that the current Hina Moritao has identified her target. If anyone dares to stop her, she will definitely fight with someone. Luo Chen followed Hina Moritao all the way, and found that there were 2 Reiatsu fighting in front of him. Hina Moritao, hurry up, Tushiro is already helping you find the enemy, don't do this anymore. Luokan saw that Ichi Yinmaru and Tushiro were grateful to stop Hina Morita after the battle. Ellipsis. Young. Chapter 966. Hinamori Dao also didn't listen to Luokan's dissuasion, she raised her Zanpakuto and charged hard. With a sound of boom, Hinamori Dao appeared between the two with a Zanpakuto, and terrifying resentment emanated from behind him. Luokan hurried up. Hinamori Dao, I'll defeat this guy right away, you can watch from the side. Tushiro raised his Zanpakuto and charged towards Ichi Yinmaru. However, Ichi Yinmaru showed a proud smile and put away the Zanpakuto. Seeing that Tushiro was about to rush in front of Ichi Ginmaru, Hinamori Momo actually blocked Ichi Ginmaru, holding a Zanpakuto to compete with Tushiro. Why, Hinamori Dao? Tushiro's eyes widened, and his pupils released a look of disbelief. Luokan is also very puzzled. Hasn't Hinamori Dao always thought that Ichijinmaru was the murderer of Aizen? Now what's going on? Could it be that the content of the suicide note changed her opinion? Why do you want to kill Captain Aizen? Captain Aizen is so gentle. Hinamori Dao shouted in pain, tears kept streaming from her eyes, and a tangled expression on her face. Tushiro understood instantly, thinking that this must be Ichijinmaru's conspiracy to make the two of them kill each other. Idiot, can't you see such an obvious trap? Tushiro shouted excitedly. He felt pity for what happened to Hinamori Dao. Hinata's tears kept streaming down, and a gust of wind blew a piece of paper down from her body. Luokan stepped forward to pick up the paper, and was shocked when he saw the content on it. The paper describes the whole process of Tushiro's work on Aizen for Rukia. The most important thing is that Aizen hopes Hinamori Momo can help him complete the next thing. Luokan looked at Toshiro suspiciously. Since he already knew Toshiro's feelings for Hina Morita, then Toshiro probably wouldn't do anything that would make Hina Morita sad, but how to explain this letter? Idiot, don't you believe it? All this is Ichigenmaru's conspiracy. How far is this odious guy calculated? Toshiro roared angrily. He couldn't forgive the guy who took advantage of Hinamori Dao. Luokan's brows furrowed tightly. These two people insist on their own words, but whose words can be trusted, and who is a traitor? System, is there anything that can judge a lie? It's really troublesome. Luokan felt that his brain was not enough. The system has analyzed Ichigenmaru and Toshiro through micro-expressions and psychology, and believes that what they both said is true. What, are you kidding me? Both of them are telling the truth, so it's Hina Morita who is lying. Luokan couldn't accept this fact. The system is also very helpless. After all, the human heart is a complex thing, and even the system cannot thoroughly check it out. Forget it, the critical moment is always unreliable. Luo Chen sighed helplessly. Rather than relying on the system, he might as well find a way. Hina Mori Dao and Toshiro have already fought fiercely, but the strength gap between the captain and the vice captain is still very large. If Tu Shilang kept letting Hina Mori Dao, Hina Moritao would have been defeated long ago. Don't stop me, I'm going to kill that guy. Toshiro roared loudly, but he was still reluctant to hurt Hina Moritao. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 967. Hinamori Dao is now in a state of grief, unable to make a rational judgment at all, and can only choose to believe the content of the letter. Hinamori Dao charged towards Toshiro with the Zanpakudo. Toshiro knew that if he continued like this, he would definitely fall into the other side's trick, so he could only be ruthless and beat Hinamori Dao. Icicles of birds. Toshiro lowered his spiritual pressure as much as possible to reduce the damage Hinamori Dao would suffer. However, the spiritual pressure has decreased, and the power of the attack has also decreased. Hinamori Dao is now fighting with all her strength, so it is easy to open this move. Boom. Toshiro was also prepared. This move was originally a feint move, in order to distract Hina Moritao's attention. Toshiro hit Hina Moritao on the back of the neck with the handle of a knife, knocking her out in one fell swoop past Tildagon. It's really hard to make a move. If you can make such a deadly move against a girl you like, you deserve to be the captain of the 10th Division. Ichi Yinmaru said lightly from the side. Toshiro didn't want to talk nonsense with Ichi Yinmaru. He was the only one who could use such despicable tricks. Luokan watched from the side and the two started fighting again. He didn't say a word, just ran to Hina Sentao's side to help her check. Hina Sentao still has some consciousness. She asked Luo Chen to help kill Toshiro. You don't have to worry about this matter. I will help you find the real murderer. Take a rest, Luo Chen said, and gave Hinamita a sleeping pill. Hinamori Dao gradually closed her eyes, but even so, she kept calling Captain Aizen's name. It's really hard for you. Luokan is now very sympathetic to Hina Sentao. Toshiro felt relieved after seeing that Luokan didn't do anything to Hinamori Dao, and concentrated on fighting against Ichi Yinmaru. Ichigenmaru was not afraid at all, and competed with ease. Although Toshiro is a genius, there is a clear gap between him and Ichigenmaru, and Ichigenmaru didn't use all his strength. Luokan has been observing the movements of the two people, trying to find some clues by virtue of the two's battle. Suddenly, Toshiro released an ice dragon at Ichi Ginmaru, and Ichi Ginmaru just raised his Zanpakudo to shoot at the ice dragon. Boom! The energies of the two sides collided and a huge explosion occurred, and the water vapor also rose. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Toshiro saw that he was often faced with such a situation, and he attacked Ichigenmaru from the air without any confusion. Ichigenmaru also aimed at Toshiro in the air, and after he missed 2 shots, he immediately turned his Zanpakudo across to block Toshiro's attack. When the two Zanpakuto collided and made a harsh sound. Ichigenmaru also began to get serious, pushing Tushiro to the back with both hands, and then fired a spirit bullet. 0. Tushiro was naturally able to dodge, but this time the attack was not aimed at Tushiro. I saw that the spirit bullet was evaded by Tushiro and flew towards the young Moridao quickly. Tushiro cried out loudly when he saw this scene. It's a pity that Hinamoridao has fallen asleep and has no ability to move at all. Hinamoridao. Even if Tushiro wanted to run over now, it was too late, so he could only stare at Hinamoridao with wide eyes. Luokan smiled faintly, and suddenly smashed Shiyinmaru's spirit bullet to the side, and said proudly, "Hey, did you ignore me? I never said that anyone could hurt Hinamori." Peach. 100 million. Chapter 968. Ichi Yinmaru's brows furrowed slightly. In his plan, Hinamorita had to die, but it would be difficult for Luokan to block his plan here. "You hurry up, don't cause me trouble here," Luo Chen said to Shi Yinmaru. Ichigenmaru smiled faintly, turned around and prepared to leave, but Toshiro didn't intend to let Ichigenmaru go so easily, and he still wanted to avenge Hina Sanyi Zero Moritao. Toshiro released an ice dragon in the direction of Ichigenmaru. Just when Ichi Yinmaru was about to counterattack, Luo Chen fired a Reiatsu bullet from a distance, directly smashing the ice dragon. Toshiro looked at Luokan angrily. His behavior made Toshiro treat him as an accomplice of Ichigenmaru. Luokan said lightly, "Right now, Hinamoridao is more important than Ichigenmaru, and the two of you have to say your own way. I really can't figure it out, so I won't let either of you die." Although Toshiro was a little unwilling, what Luokan said was very reasonable. In the end, Toshiro put away the Zanpakuto, and Ichigenmaru left. At this time, Matsumoto Ranju also arrived. "Captain, what happened? Why did Hinamori Peach fall here?" Matsumoto Ranju looked at several people in confusion. Luokan shrugged her shoulders. The good show has just passed, and she really didn't come at the right time. Ichi Yinmaru changed the content of the suicide note. "Haven't you confirmed it?" Toshiro asked Matsumoto Renki excitedly. Matsumoto Ranju's mouth widened in surprise. She found this letter herself from Aizen's body, and no one touched it. How could it be changed? "Are you sure no one has touched it?" Luokan asked suspiciously. Matsumoto Renku nodded affirmatively and said, and after reading the letter, Hinamori Momo confirmed that it was Captain Aizen's note, so it shouldn't have been exchanged. Luokan raised his brows. "This matter is really getting more and more interesting, and now there is one thing that I can confirm, that Ichi Yinmaru must have read this letter, so the suspicion that he is the murderer has increased. It's getting late, you'd better send Hina Sentao back, otherwise her crime will be deeper." Luo Chen said and left. He was going to check Aizen's body. XXX. Luokan came to the place where the corpse of the ***** of death was stored with the memory of Luokan, the god of death. While looking for the corpse of Aizen, a person came out. Maoji Huili. Luo Chen looked at Maoji Huili, but he knew this woman not only the first generation of Sword 8 titled Death God, but also the longest-serving captain among many captains. Maojawali's intuition is also very sensitive, and said to Luokan's direction, "Come out, don't hide anymore, I have seen you." Luokan walked out generously and greeted Ujawali politely. "Luokan, you really aren't dead." The moment Maoji Huili saw Luokan, tears instantly entered his eyes, and his body kept shaking. Luokan looked at Maojawali suspiciously, wondering why she was so excited when she saw her. Does she also like her? Chapter 969. Luokan smiled awkwardly, scratched his head and replied, "I'm sorry, I didn't die to disappoint you." Ujawali shook her head vigorously, rushed to Luokan and hugged him directly, and said excitedly, "It's great that you didn't die." Luokan was stunned for a moment. There is no such relationship in the memory of the god of death Luokan, so what should he do? "Captain Ujawali, please pay attention to your emotions. Although there is no one here, I am also a principled person. Luokan pushed Wujawali away and kept a distance from her. Wujawali wiped the tears from his eyes and said excitedly, "I'm sorry, I'm being rude. I originally heard that they saw your ghost, but I didn't believe it, but now I finally saw it with my own eyes." Luokan originally thought that Wujawali would torture him and question him when he saw him, but now this scene is really beyond his imagination. Luo Chen coughed lightly twice, trying to calm himself down. "I'm not a soul, you have to figure this out." Luo Chen didn't want to be regarded as a strange existence by others. Wujawali nodded vigorously and said with a smile, "I know, but you seem to be a different person. You wouldn't say such things before." Luokan continued to speak along with Wujawali's words. "Yes, now I have become another person, and I don't remember anything from the past, so can you show me Aizen's body?" Luo Chen felt that his topic turned a little stiff, and he regretted it when he said it. Wujawali didn't mind, she had already checked Luokan's identity, so she believed in Luokan very much. "Come with me." Wujawali brought Luokan to the corpse of Captain Aizen. After Luo Chen lifted the white cloth, he carefully looked at Aizen's wound, seeing that he was killed with a single blow, and all the spirits in his body were dissipated. Strange, Captain Aizen's strength should be very strong. If the opponent attacked him, he shouldn't have only this scar on his body. Luokan raised his doubts. Hana nodded, pointed at Aizen's arm and said, "Look here, Captain Aizen often gathers his strength here when he uses the Zanpakudo, but there are no muscles here, which is very strange." Luokan asked the system to scan Aizen's body, and soon the system gave the answer that there was no body here. What? Luo Chen had no doubts about the system's detection, but he saw with his own eyes that there were corpses here, which was too strange. After seeing Luokan's surprised expression, Wujawali asked, "Have you found anything? Can you tell me about it?" Luokan said suspiciously, "This is not Aizen's corpse." When Hanaritsu heard this answer, he didn't show a very surprised expression, but a look that he had expected for a long time. "It turns out that, although I don't know how to do it, it is also possible, and then we have to find their location." Hana said seriously. Luokan smiled lightly, he knew that Wujawali was a powerful god of death, and he thought of what to do next. "Let me investigate this matter. Have you found anything wrong with S-linking?" Luo Chen decided to investigate by himself in order to avoid being shocked by the grass. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 970. Hanali tilted his head and thought about it, but he didn't feel anything strange, but he always felt something strange. "By the way, do you know why this ruling on Rukia became the death penalty?" Luo Chen wanted to know if there was any relationship between the two things. When Luo Chen said this, Wujawali really thought of some questions. Originally, Rukia's crime this time did not lead to death, but the order from room 46 was to execute her. "I feel very strange about this. Room 46, it seems that there is really something strange in that place." Luokan smiled lightly, feeling that he was getting closer to the truth, and the answer would be revealed soon. "I see, I've worked hard for you, and I'll ask you to observe the surrounding situation more," Luokan said softly. A blush suddenly appeared on Wujawali's face, and he lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Luokan. "What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Do you want me to take you to the 4th Division to check your health tilde?" Luokan asked with concern. Wujawali shook his head and replied, "Thank you, I'm the captain of the 4th Division. I know my own physical condition, so I won't bother them." Luo Chen slapped his forehead, but he took this Materi forgot the love. "I always thought that Unahakali was still the founder of the title of Kenpachi." "Then I'll go first," Luo Chen said and left. Wujawali kept watching Luokan's figure disappear from sight, and the blush on her face hadn't disappeared. "Lord Ujawa, what happened to you? What happened?" Toru Yuyan walked out from the side, she had never seen Wujawali like this before. Wujawali smiled faintly, turned around and said to Toru Yuyan, "Come on, let's find out the truth of what happened this time, and protect S-linking well." Yes, Hana-sama, Toru Yuyan replied loudly. Before he knew it, the sky was getting brighter, and Luo Chen looked at the gods of death around him and decided to go back and report the situation to Yi first to see what she had to say. Just like that, Luokan returned to the house of the god of death, Luokan. Boom boom boom. Luokan heard a loud noise coming from inside the house, and suddenly felt a trace of unease in his heart, and he didn't dare to open the door with both hands for a long time. With a bang, the door was blown away. Fortunately, Luokan avoided quickly, otherwise the door would have hit him in the face. Diaresis yo, you're finally back, how are you inquiring? Yi excitedly waved to Luokan. Luokan looked at the mess in the house and couldn't smile at all. He really didn't know what they did that day. The tidy house turned out to be like a disaster scene. Yi smiled, waved his hands and said, "Don't care so much, we are also waiting for you to come back, otherwise I will take them to a specially made practice ground." Good, oh tilde. What else could Luokan say, and now that he saw the scene inside the house, he really couldn't say a word. Yi walked out of the house, and when he saw Luo Chen, he also greeted him and asked him what he was doing all night. Luokan sighed helplessly, this night was a lot of trouble for him. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Young. Chapter 971. Luokan walked into the house and managed to clear an open space, then sat down and began to tell the results of his investigation. What, you said that Aizen didn't die? Yi Pair was also very shocked by this result. Luokan nodded, but everyone saw Aizen's body, which was very strange. It seems that the situation is more responsible than I believe, what should I do next? Yi asked Luo Chen with a solemn expression. Luokan touched his chin and told his plan. Central Room 46. Yi was shocked when he heard the name, but he didn't expect that the seriousness of the matter had spread to this place. Luokan was tired enough after a night of tossing and tossing, he waved his hand to let Yi not have to worry about it, he wanted to take a good rest. By the way, how's your special training for Ichigo? Luokan walked into the bedroom and saw that thousands of grass and mud horses were galloping past in his heart. If Ichigo didn't make any progress, wouldn't his house be ruined in vain? Yi sighed and looked at Ichigo, his eyes filled with disappointment. Hey, what's your attitude? I've been practicing with all my strength, it must be because your method is unreliable. Ichigo shouted excitedly. Yaiki didn't argue with him either. Anyway, if the current progress was followed, Ichigo would not be able to learn the solution at all. Come with me. Yoichi was going to find a suitable place for Ichigo for special training. Luo Chen looked at the mess in the house and sighed helplessly, but kept up with Yaiki and Ichigo, thinking they would find a new house. In the end, Yi brought Luo Chen and Ichigo to the ground. This place is extremely spacious, but this place looks a little familiar. Why is this place so similar to Kazuki Urahara's underground? Luokan looked at Yaiki suspiciously. Yi smiled smugly and replied, of course, because he was built here. Did you forget that we often had special training here when we were young? After Yi said that, Luokan really remembered that. The death god Luokan really had this part in his memory, but Luokan didn't have time to care about them. Since you are here for special training, I can rest assured. I'd better go back and rest, and continue to investigate the matter of linking in the evening. Luokan said that he was about to leave. Yi grabbed Luo Chen and said with a smile, before you rest, there is one more thing you need help with. This is about Ichigo's solution. As soon as Luo Chen heard it, he knew that there was nothing good, but looking at Yi's expression, if he didn't agree, he really couldn't leave. Tell me, what exactly is going on? Luo Chen said helplessly. Yi wanted Luo Chen to go to Niyuli to get 2 items for the solution, so that he could help Luo Chen to summon Zanyu to the world. Niyuli, that guy is not easy to deal with. Luo Chen frowned, a little reluctant in his heart. Yi smiled, she also knew that Niyuli was not easy to deal with, so she would ask Luo Chen, otherwise she would go by herself. Ha ha. The corners of Luo Chen's mouth twitched and he looked at Yi Yi, thinking that Yi Yi was definitely sent by God to torture him. Forget it. Since he was helping Ichigo grow up, Luo Chen didn't plan to complain, but he couldn't just admit defeat. What are you doing? I don't want to go. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 972. Fallen dust pulls Yi Yi like a technology development. Barohei ran out, leaving Ichigo alone watching the two leave in embarrassment. What? It's too much to leave me alone. Ichigo waved his Zanpakuto in disdain. Since the two of them don't care about themselves, then he will do special training by himself. He must master the solution, and then he will be able to raise his eyebrows. Luokan and Yei crept to the Technology Development Bureau and found that there was no one guarding the place, which made Luokan relax a lot. I didn't expect that the guards here at the Technology Development Bureau would be so slack under such a tense situation. It's unbelievable, Luokan sighed. Yi Yi was very nervous. She knew about Ni Yuli's personality. He was not an ordinary vicious man. He was a mad scientist who would do anything for research and invention. Luokan walked to the door with confidence and boldness, and opened it with a slight push. Ah, this door is too easy to open. Luo Chen looked at the empty room and didn't know what to say. Yi Yi was even more puzzled. She didn't believe that the Technology Development Bureau would let people break in so easily. Luokan strode forward without caring, and waved Yi Yi to follow quickly. With herself leading her way, what was she afraid of? After hesitating for a while, Yi Yi walked in, feeling a little uneasy after seeing the furnishings in the room. Suddenly, a figure flashed by. Yi Yi quickly reminded Luo Chen to be careful. Luokan has already entered the state of battle, ready to fight at any time, but it turned out to be Ninmeng who came out. Hello, Lord Luokan, is there anything you need to do when you come to the Technology Development Bureau? Ninmeng asked sincerely. Yi Yi saw that Ninmeng was so tender and jealous towards Luokan, and asked with narrowed eyes, when did you two become so familiar, Lord Luokan? Luokan smiled, as the saying goes, good is rewarded, and this is his reward for doing good deeds. XXX. That we want two props to help us learn the solution, I wonder if you can find them for us. Luo Chen asked Ninmeng embarrassedly. Yi Yi didn't expect that Luo Chen would directly say his purpose, and I believe Ninmeng would never agree. Okay Lord Luokan, I'll get it for you now. Ninmeng said and turned and left. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Yi Yi opened his mouth in surprise. He didn't expect to get the props so easily. He really admires Luo Chen. Tell me, what happened between the two of you? This guy Ninmeng is not so easy to talk about. Yi Yi stared at Luo Chen, and the smell of vinegar spread in the room. 0. Luokan truthfully told Yi Yi the whole story of the battle between Ishida Yulong and Nima Yuri, and Yi Yi only spared Luokan. After a while, Ninmeng walked out of the room with two yellow dolls in her hands. Here, Lord Luokan. Luokan looked at the yellow puppet suspiciously, then turned to look at Yi Yi. Yi Yi urged, hurry up and take it, what are you waiting for? With Yi Yi's words, Luo Chen immediately picked up the doll, turned around and was about to leave, but Yi Yi asked suspiciously, why is Ni Yuli not here? Ninmeng answered truthfully, Master Newly is recovering, so I will take care of everything here. 100 million. Chapter 973. Yi Yi understood Ninmeng's words. It seems that Yulong Ishida caused him a lot of damage, and it took him so long to recover. Okay, let's go quickly. Luo Chen urged. Yi Yi pouted and followed Luo Chen back to the special training ground. At this time, Ichigo was wielding the Zanpakuto erratically. A swishing blade of knife energy rushed in the direction of Luokan and Yei. Luokan hurriedly dropped the props, grabbed Yi Yi and flashed to the side. Ah, what are you doing? do you want to break the props we finally borrowed for you? Yi fiercely questioned Ichigo. Looking at Yi's angry appearance, Ichigo didn't dare to say anything, just stood there and remained silent. Luokan quickly comforted Yi, and stepped forward to check the condition of the props. It doesn't matter, you see the props are still good, let's hurry up and conduct special training. Luo Chen said and put the props in Yi's hands. Yi snorted coldly, threw the prop at Ichigo forcefully, and said indifferently, if you're ready, stick the Zanpakuto on it, and then. Ichigo took action before Yoichi's words were finished, and Zanyuki appeared in front of everyone after a burst of light. Ichigo, are you calling me? Zanyu looked at Ichigo and asked coldly. Luokan looked at Zanyu and saw that he looked very good. It would be great if he also had a Zanpakuto to protect himself. Ninetails gaped to Luo Chen's thoughts, and protested dissatisfiedly. Master, I'm much better than that guy, otherwise you let me out and I'll destroy him in minutes. Luokan smiled awkwardly. He knew Juwei's strength, so he quickly said good things to Juwei. With a surprised expression on his face, Yi said excitedly to Ichigo, idiot, are you ready? If you can't complete the test of Zanyu, you will die, then. Ichigo interrupted Yaiki again and said confidently to Yaiki, sorry, I didn't plan to fail, so you don't need to tell me what happened after failure. Zanyu was very satisfied when he heard Ichigo's words. A mysterious smile appeared on his face, while Yoichi was terrified. She naturally knew that Ichigo wanted to save Rukia, but she couldn't take it forcing her body like this. In case of an accident during training, Luokan would not forgive her. Luokan walked to Yi's side, put a hand on Yi's shoulder, and said softly, trust Ichigo, he can definitely do it, this is his choice. Yi's expression relaxed, he took a deep breath and regained his composure. Yeah, keep Ichigo in this state, time is running out. Yi raised his hand to cheer for Ichigo. Ichigo nodded vigorously and asked Zanyu to let his horse come over. Luo Chen was curious about how to learn the solution, but he was able to concretize the 9 tails naturally. Zanyu looked at Ichigo's firm appearance and stopped talking nonsense. She spread her hands, and a large number of Zanpakuto suddenly appeared around, each of which was exactly the same as Zanyu. Come on, find Zanyu from these Zanpakuto, and defeat me. After saying that, Zanyu was like Ichigo launching an attack. Ichigo's reaction was also very sensitive. Seeing Zanyu rushing towards him, he immediately responded to the defense. No matter which one was the real Zanyu sword, he immediately picked it up to block Zanyu's attack. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 974. Luokan watched the battle between Ichigo and Zanyu with great interest, but Yi, who was beside him, dragged Luokan out. Hey, what's wrong? Luo Chen was taken out of the underground special training venue just like that. Seeing Yi's sad face, Luo Chen was also very distressed, and asked in a concerned way, what happened? You look like this makes me very distressed. Yi really hadn't heard Luo Chen say such a thing for a long time, and he couldn't control his emotions for a while. This made Luo Chen a little embarrassed, and he didn't know where to put his hands. After a while, Yi finally calmed down, thanked Luo Chen and started talking about business. This time, we came to the Soul world a few days ahead of schedule, but this time is not enough. I'm worried that Ichigo won't be able to bear it. Luokan looked at Yi suspiciously, and asked, what do you mean by coming a few days early? Yi was stunned for a moment. She thought Luo Chen had discovered it long ago, but it seemed she didn't. We met a scavenger when we came to the Soul Realm. At that time, Orihime used his abilities to help us escape, but we didn't enter the correct time and space, and came to the Soul Realm earlier than that. Yaiki explained patiently. Luokan nodded. This is still understandable, he is a person who has traveled through several worlds. It doesn't matter, you have to trust Ichigo. If he really can't do it, give it to him, and then it will be able to protect Ichigo's life. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he took out a life-saving pill. Yi nodded a little, feeling a kind of reluctance in his heart for what Luo Chen couldn't tell. Is there anything else? If not, I have to go back to rest. Luo Chen really felt sleepy after not sleeping all night. Yi smiled softly, seeing Luo Chen's exhausted appearance. He was also very distressed. Go back, I'll go back to find you if I have something to do. Yes, Luo Chen said and left. Yi also returned to the special training venue to supervise Ichigo. Seeing Yi coming back alone, Ichigo asked suspiciously, what is Luokan doing? Why didn't he come back with you? Is this the time to distract you? Zanyu saw Ichigo's flaw and cut it without hesitation. Ichigo jumped up in fright and ran for his life, looking at Yoichi while escaping, waiting for her answer. Yi sternly reprimanded Ichigo. Now there is no time for you to take care of these superfluous matters. Hurry up and fight for me. If you continue like this, you won't learn how to solve it. Ichigo furrowed his brows when he heard this, and he was attacked by Zanyuki just after he stopped, so he had to continue to run away. Yoichi also joined the special training for Ichigo and hit Ichigo with a whip. Not long after Luokan left, he heard the screams from Ichigo, and his heart trembled. However, he also believed that this little difficulty was not a problem for Ichigo. Luokan quickly returned to the house of Luokan, the god of death, and fell asleep in a random place. In his sleep, Luokan felt that someone was staring at him, so he slowly opened his eyes. When Luo Chen opened his eyes, he saw 6 eyes staring at him, very penetrating. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 975. Luokan stepped back excitedly. If he hadn't seen the other party's face clearly in time, he would have really shot. What do you 3 want to do? Luokan asked Ishida Yulong and the others nervously. Ishida Yulong pushed his glasses in embarrassment, and asked Luokan, Ichigo and Orihime why they weren't here and whether they were in any danger. Ichigo, he went to special training. Orihime is in a safe place. Don't worry, if there is nothing else, don't disturb my sleep. Ishida Yulong and the others did not agree. As soon as they heard that Ichigo was conducting special training, they immediately asked to give them special training together. Especially Ishida Yulong, although he lost his power, he also wanted to help Ichigo, so he hoped to improve his strength through the method of falling dust. Luokan waved his hands indifferently and let the wounded of them recover well. How can this be possible? Isn't that Ichigo far ahead of us? A man covered in bandages rushed to Luokan. Luo Chen was really startled, pointed to the bandage monster and asked, You, who are you tilde? The bandaged man shouted excitedly, I'm Gansu, Shiba Gansu. Luokan laughed embarrassedly, seeing Ganju like this, I really can't blame him, who made Ganju cover his face. Your face shouldn't be hurt, right? Luo Chen recalled that Ganju's injuries were not particularly serious during the battle, but he was bandaged like this. Ganju was already depressed, but now he was even more depressed when he heard Luo Chen say that. How could he know who helped him bandage it? It was really bad. You don't have to think about Luokan to know that this is definitely Yi's masterpiece, and only she would bandage people like this. Okay, I'm going to bed now, don't disturb me. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he was ready to sleep. Chadu stared at Luokan, hoping that he could help him with special training, but he was embarrassed to tell it. Luokan turned over and over, and could always feel Chadu's gaze, which made him unable to sleep at all. Chadu, can you stop looking at me? I've been busy all night, and it's hard to get a rest. Please don't disturb me. Sleep's hatred is very big. Even a good-tempered person like Luo Chen can't tolerate someone stopping him from sleeping. I'm sorry, Chadu said and left silently, staring at Luo Chen from a distance. Luokan was helpless. He couldn't fall asleep when he lay down, so he had to sit up and watch only a few people. Diaresis, what's the matter? We didn't disturb your sleep. Ganju said confidently, as if he had done something amazing. Luokan sighed helplessly, and told the few of them about the current situation of Ichigo and what happened to Lingting. Ichigo's current situation is so dangerous. That stupid boy did this for Rukia. Gansu said angrily. Luokan looked at Ganju, very good, suspiciously, and really didn't know he cared so much about Ichigo. It has nothing to do with Ichigo, it's Rukia. Gansu's face flushed slightly. He didn't want to admit that he was worried about Ichigo's safety. Luokan understood the thoughts in Ganju's heart very well, so he didn't say much. Right now, all you can do is to take good care of your injuries and wait for the second battle. Then it's time for you to show your strength. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 976. Luo Chen said earnestly, just like an old father. Chadu nodded, but Ishida Yulong's expression was very ugly. He didn't know if he could still help, but he had lost the power of a Quincy. Not to mention Ganju, he sat on the ground and meditated. Ah, your behavior and personality really don't match up seriously. Luo Chen said lightly. Ganju ignored him and continued to meditate to calm himself and try to keep calm. Luokan saw that they were all quiet, and could finally sleep at ease. When I woke up, it was already dark. XXX. Although Orihime was safe at Shinmu Kenpachi's place, Luokan was still a little worried and decided to visit Orihime before going to Central Room 46. Luo Chen stood up straight and stood up, greeted Ishida Yulong and the others, pushed open the door and left. Luokan ran wildly all the way and came directly to Shinmu Janpachi's door. Come in, I know you're here. Shinmu Kenpachi's voice came from inside the room. Luokan was not polite either. He pushed open the door and walked in. He knew Shinmu Kenpachi's personality and didn't like to make small moves. How is your injury? How is my little friend here? Luokan asked naturally. Orihime was very happy to see Luokan walking in, jumped up from the bed, and greeted Luokan. Ghost, you're here, and I miss you so much. Ba Chinliu said sincerely with big round eyes. Luokan smiled lightly and thanked Ba Chinliu. As soon as Luo Chen turned his head and saw the god of death who was drunk before, he asked, Why are you here, haven't you sobered up yet? Idiot, don't look at this place, I won't run here even if I'm drunk. Aramaki Maki excitedly protested to Luokan. Shinmu Kenpachi, who was beside him, glared at Aramaki Maki, which made Aramaki lose his soul, and quickly waved his hand to explain Shinmu Kenpachi. What are you doing here? Aren't you worried about what I will do to this little girl? Shinmu Janba asked Luokan coldly. Luokan laughed lightly. He was really not afraid of what Shinmu Kenpachi would do to Oriji, and he also believed that Shinmu Kenpachi would not do anything to Oriji. How could that be? I'm very relieved that Orihime is here with you. I'm just here to tell you some information. Luo Chen said lightly. Shinmu Kenpachi didn't say anything, just sat quietly and listened. Luo Chen is not in a hurry, first pulled Orihime aside, told her everything about Ishida Yulong and others, and then told her about Ichigo's special training. Ah, Kurosaki-san is doing special training, so I'll do my best. Orihime said and stood up, but because she was too excited, she accidentally pulled on the wound, and her face instantly showed a painful expression. Luokan sighed helplessly. Orihime's reaction was completely what he expected, but he couldn't blame Orihime for that. Okay, your current task is to heal your wounds well, and then the battle will be 3 days later. I'll come back to you when the time comes. Luo Chen said seriously. Orihime nodded. She believed in Luokan very much, so she would seriously recover from her injuries so that she could wait for the next battle. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 977. Shenmue Janpachi saw that Luo Chen and Orihime had talked for so long that they hadn't exchanged information with him, and finally couldn't bear it anymore, stood up and walked towards Luo Chen's side. When Aramaki Senki saw the figure of Kenpachi Shinmu, he immediately stepped back to make way for Kenpachi Shinmu, and at the same time, sweat broke out on his head. Hey, you two should have said enough. If there is nothing else you can leave. Shinmu Jonpachi said impatiently. Ba Qinliu ruthlessly dismantled Shinmu Jonpachi. Xiaoba wants to chat with ghosts. I really haven't seen Xiaoba want to communicate with a person so much for a long time. Shen Mujian was stunned, with an unnatural expression on his face, stubbornly refusing to admit it. Luokan shrugged. He didn't expect that he was so popular. Even Shinmu Kenpachi, who was indifferent to others, liked to chat with him. Soul's expression is disgusting, Yachinliu said with disgust when he saw Luokan's narcissistic smile. Luo Chen quickly adjusted his expression, and walked seriously in front of Shinmu Kenpachi. What's the matter? Why did the atmosphere suddenly become so tense? Aramaki asked nervously. He felt a tense atmosphere in the room and he was about to breathe out. However, no one answered him. Luo Chen started talking about Aizen's death cause with Shinmu Jonpachi. Aizen's death has nothing to do with me. Shinmu Jonpachi said lightly, with a look of disdain on his face. He had no interest in weak people at all. Luokan continued. If it's just suspended animation, and Aizen's strength is stronger than you think, don't underestimate him. Shenmu Jonpa's pupils moved slightly. He didn't let Luo Chen admit his strength, but Lan Ran was able to let Luo Chen admit his strength, which made Shenmu Jonpa very angry. Where is he? I'll get rid of him immediately. Shinmu Kenpachi said and stood up, holding the Zanpakuto and about to walk out. Luokan quickly stopped Shinmu Jonpa. He didn't want to startle the snake. He finally found a little clue, but he couldn't just lose it. Shinmu Jonpachi is an impatient person and feels impatient with Luokan's careful investigation. What do I need to do? Shinmu Jonpachi asked directly. Luo Chen said lightly, do you know how to enter the central room 46? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Shinmu Kenpachi shook his head. He had no interest in that kind of information, so he never cared. Luokan shrugged his shoulders, spread his hands and said, then there's nothing else to do. We'll see you next time. Please take good care of Orihime. Luokan stood up and prepared to leave, but Shinmu Kenpachi blocked Luokan's way with his Zanpakuto. Why, do you want to fight? Luo Chen asked lightly. He could care about having a fight with Shinmu Jonpachi. Shinmu Kenpachi put down his Zanpakuto and said slowly, although no one has ever entered the 46th room in the central room, the content that has come out of it recently is really unpleasant. If you have a chance, you must let me teach me a lesson. Look at the bastards in there. Luokan laughed lightly after hearing Shinmu Jonpachi's words. He didn't expect Shinmu Jonpachi to be so dishonest. He knew so much information but said he didn't know. Ah, I see. I will definitely bring it to you when I catch that bastard, so I will treat it as a thank you gift for taking care of Orihime for me. Luo Chen left after finishing speaking. 100 million. Chapter 978. Shinmu Jonpachi laughed when he saw the figure that Luokan left, and Ba Qinliu, who was beside him, crawled directly onto Shinmu Jonpachi's back. Xiaoba will be so happy every time he sees a ghost. Ba Qianlu really hopes that the ghost can stay here forever. Shinmu Kenpachi shook his head. He believed that they would meet again, and he would have a good match by then. After Luokan left Shinmu Jonpachi's house, he went directly to room 46 in the center, and when he reached out his hand to open the door, Shi Yinmaru suddenly appeared. Oh, I didn't expect that the brigade would know about such a place. It's too bad. Ichi Yinmaru said with a smile. Luokan curled his lips. What is a calamity brigade? He is obviously helping them investigate the truth of the matter, yet he is not grateful to Dade. Is there anything? If not, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. After Ichi Yinmaru's intentional guidance last time, Luokan became vigilant about every word he said. Ichi Yinmaru took out the Zanpakuto and said righteously, this is the forbidden place of the god of death. The brigade of calamity cannot enter, and anyone who disobeys will be killed. Luo Chen raised his eyebrows and replied disdainfully, I'm not from your Lingting anyway, so I don't violate the rules if I go in. Those who are sensible, leave quickly. Ichi Yinmaru directly attacked Luokan, but the attack was not violent, he just wanted to force Luokan away. When Luokan saw Shi Yinwan's abnormal behavior, he knew that there was something wrong with the 46th room in the center, and he wanted to go in and have a look. Hey, isn't the position of Captain S. Lingting not good? What else do you want? Tell the truth, maybe I can help you. Luo Chen said easily, he didn't want to put other death gods bring it here. Ichi Yinmaru stopped attacking and showed a mysterious smile to Luokan. I can't understand what you're saying. I'm the god of death, and you're a brigade of misfortune. I have the responsibility to expel you from here. Leave now. Since Luokan was going to force a breakthrough like this, when he took out his Zanpakuto to fight back, he heard footsteps. Hurry up, there is movement here. Luokan glanced at Ichi Yinmaru. He didn't want to cause too much commotion, so he chose to retreat temporarily. With a swoosh, Luokan disappeared in front of Shi Yinmaru. Kira Izuru led a group of death gods to the front of Ichijinmaru, and asked seriously, Lord Ichijinmaru, did something happen here? Ichi Yinmaru smiled faintly and shook his head. It's just a stray cat passing by. Now the stray cat has been scared away by you. You did a good job. Ichijinmaru said and put his hand on Kira Izuru's shoulder and patted it twice. Kira Izuru immediately stood up straight and expressed his gratitude to Ichijinmaru, thanking him for recognizing his own strength. Luokan felt very disgusting when he saw this scene, but it seemed that Kira Izuru and the others would not leave here for the time being, so they had to think of other ways. Suddenly, Luokan thought of Shintao, and didn't know what happened to her. Luokan decided that she wanted to see Hina Moritao, and at the same time comforted her, so that she would not be doing something stupid. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 979. Luokan quickly came to the prison, but did not find the figure of Hinamori. So Luo Chen casually grabbed a death god and asked about the whereabouts of Hina Sendao. I don't know, I really don't know, Hinamori has never been imprisoned here. Death said in horror. Luokan frowned slightly, and he didn't look like he was lying, so he decided to believe him. Flutter. Luo Chen stunned the god of death with a knife in his hand, and the god of death fell to the ground and made a slight noise. If Hinamori Dao is no longer here, then it should have been taken away by Tushiro. Luokan thought so and came to Tushiro's residence. Matsumoto Ranju appeared in front of Luokan. What's the matter with you here? Matsumoto Ranju put his hand on the Zanpakuto and looked at Luokan vigilantly to prevent him from attacking Tushiro. Luokan shrugged his shoulders and said lightly, I didn't expect that I would be such an unpopular person. It's so disappointing. Matsumoto Ranju would not be disturbed by Luokan's words. Since Luokan didn't say his purpose, then she used force to make him say it. Stop, Ranju, you are not his opponent. Tushiro appeared in time to stop Matsumoto Ranju. Ranju Matsumoto glanced at Tushiro, although he wanted to say something, but after seeing Tushiro's expression, he put away the Zanpakuto. Come with me. Tushiro now believes a little bit in Luokan, at least Luokan really protected Hinamori Dao. Luo Chen followed Dong Shilang to the outside of a room. Young Sendao is inside, you can go in. Tushiro said indifferently, then turned around and stood aside. Luokan didn't hesitate, he pulled them away and walked in directly. Xiao Sendao, how are you? Luo Chen looked at Xiao Sendao as if he had lost his soul, and quickly stepped forward to check. Hinamori Dao didn't react at all, her empty pupils had dull eyes, and she didn't know what she was looking at. Luokan was really distressed when she saw her like this, so she turned into Aizen's appearance and said to Hina Moritao, how have you been lately? Hinamori Dao saw that tears flowed from Aizen's eyes, and jumped up. Captain Aizen, I really miss you. I'm sorry, I couldn't complete your mission, I really. Hinamori Dao said and became choked up. Luokan put his hand on the head of the young Sentao, and said softly, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, you shouldn't be forced to help me complete the task, forgive me. Captain Aizen is still so gentle. Hinamori Dao looked at Luokan and smiled. Indeed, Hinamori Dao also knew that the person in front of her was not Aizen, but Aizen's appearance made her unable to resist, and her emotions were uncontrollable. Luokan comforted Hinata for a while, and then left the room after asking her to take care of herself. Why did Xiaozhen Dao become like this? Luo Chen really felt some sympathy for what happened to Xiaozhen Dao. Toshiro's expression is also very unwilling. If possible, he wants to bear all this for Hina Moritao, but unfortunately it is impossible. It's all to blame for that hateful Ichigenmaru. If he hadn't killed Aizen, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Toshiro slammed his head tightly against the wall beside him. Luo Chen looked at Dong Shileng. The corners of his mouth were raised, and he asked lightly, are you really sure that Aizen is dead? Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 980. What do you mean? Toshiro was stunned when he heard Luokan's words, but he saw Aizen's body with his own eyes, and there was no objection to this matter. XXX. Luokan continued. After my conclusion, it's not Aizen's corpse. Although I still don't understand how it was done, it is certain that this matter must be trying to cover up. The shock on Toshiro's face added another layer. He always thought that all this was done by Ichigenmaru, and this preconceived view restricted his thinking. If my guess is correct, there will be news about Rukia's early execution soon. Luo Chen said confidently. He thought that Aizen must have been eyeing Rukia and wanted something when Rukia was executed. Toshiro didn't believe Luokan's words, but there was a sound in the distance. This was the voice that asked them to hold a captain's meeting. Go, I'll stay here with Hina Morita for a while. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he entered the room. After a while, Dong Shileng came back and called Luo Chen out. How on earth did you know, and why did you know about this tilde? Luokan saw Dong Shileng's reaction and knew that his guess was correct, and now he doesn't need to investigate the 46th room of the central office by himself. When will Rukia be executed this time? Luo Chen asked rhetorically. Tomorrow at noon, Toshiro replied indifferently. It's really urgent. It seems that tomorrow will be the critical moment. He will tell Ichigo and the others the news. If you want to know the answer, go to the 46th room in the central office. Didn't the information come from there? Luo Chen said lightly. At the same time, Hinamori Dao heard the conversation between Luo Chen and Toshiro in the room, and she made up her mind to wait until tomorrow to go to the central room 46 to investigate the truth. In that case, I'll leave first, but time has become urgent. Luo Chen said and walked out, but Dong Shileng stopped Luo Chen. Thanks. Luo Chen turned his back to Dong Shileng and said, if you're referring to the matter of Hina Sendao, then there is no need. Hina Sendao is a good girl. If you don't hurry up, you will be snatched away by others. Dong Shileng blushed when he heard Luo Chen's words, but when he wanted to refute Luo Chen's words, he found that Luo Chen had disappeared. Matsumoto Ranju came out with a very serious expression on his face, but when he saw Toshiro's blushing face, he couldn't help it. Diaresis haha, Captain, what's your expression like, a girl in love? Toshiro was originally embarrassed, but now he has become even more red after being laughed at by Matsumoto Ranki, and he has shown the prestige of the leader. I now order you to turn around for me quickly. Matsumoto Ranki also knew Toshiro's personality and turned his back to him very obediently. It would be great if this atmosphere could be maintained forever. I really hope that tomorrow will not come. Matsumoto Ranju suddenly said very sad words. Toshiro's expression also became serious, and when he recalled Luokan's words, his heart became heavy, and he expressed some gratitude to Matsumoto Ranju. Really, It's not like the captain's style when talking like this. Matsumoto Ranju looked at the moon in the sky and became lightly sad, and he didn't know what the S-linting would look like tomorrow. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 981. On the way back, Luokan ran into Renji Asanjing. At this time, Renji Asanjing was distressed, and he couldn't accept Rukia's execution. Luokan laughed calmly. It's really good to worry about this kind of thing. If you can, please help us save Rukia. Asanjing Renji saw Luo Chen excitedly pulling out his Zanpakuto, knowing that he couldn't beat Luo Chen, but he just wanted to vent his emotions. Luokan didn't take Asanjing Renji seriously either. Facing Asanjing Renji's attack, he just flexibly avoided it. "Ah, why don't you attack me? Do you look down on me?" Asanjing Renji was very unhappy with Luokan's attitude, feeling that she was being underestimated. Luokan nodded unceremoniously. In his opinion, Renji Asanjing's attack was just a random wave. With no rules at all, it was impossible to hit him. Roar! Shawaimaru! Asanjing Renji released the power of Shawaimaru, and the Shawaimaru that turned into swiftly charged towards Luokan. Luokan didn't panic at all, took out the style of the king, raised his hand and grabbed Shawaimaru, and then tugged hard, snatching Shawaimaru directly from Renji Asanjing's hand. Shawaimaru! Asani Renji's pupils read shock. Luokan smiled and said, "What's the matter, are you scared like this? Is Shawaimaru really your most precious Zanpakuto? Hurry up and return the Shawaimaru to me." Asanjing Renji shouted excitedly to Luokan. Luokan threw Shawaimaru to Asanjing Renji. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let someone take you away." Asanjing had a painful expression on his face after he got the Shawai pill, and he blamed himself for his incompetence. Luokan was not very comfortable when she saw Asanjing Renji like this. She walked over gently and put her hand on Asanjing's head. "If you want to change this, go get stronger. I know you have such strength, even if not for Rukia, but also for Shawaimaru." Asanjing Ryanji was taken aback for a moment. Luokan's words really made him realize. "I see, thank you. Asanjing Renji is going to special training with Shawaimaru. He must rescue Rukia, otherwise he will be too sorry for Shawaimaru." Asanjing Renji was just 2 steps away when Luo Chen stopped him. "Can I ask you to help me with something? As a reward, I will provide you with a way to learn the solution." Asanjing Renji immediately stopped when he heard dissolution, turned around and asked what Luo Chen wanted to help. Now, as long as he can become stronger, he is willing to do anything. "What? It's just that you go and tell Ichigo and the others the news of tomorrow's disposal of Rukia. Ichigo should be busy practicing and interpreting things right now and don't have time to pay attention to what's going on outside." Asanjing Renji was very surprised to hear that Ichigo was also practicing the dissolution, but not everyone can do the dissolution of the Zanpakuto, and Ichigo only had the Zanpakuto for a few months. Luokan told Asanjing Renji the location of Ichigo, and Asanjing Renji agreed without hesitation. "Actually, your relationship with Shawaimaru has already arrived. It's just that you have sealed off your relationship before and haven't been able to solve it successfully. After what happened just now, I believe you will be able to summon Shawaimaru." When Luokan robbed Shawaimaru just now, he already felt Shawaimaru's feelings for Asanjing Renji, so he made this suggestion. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 982. Asanjing Renji thanked Luokan again. If Luokan didn't say it, he really didn't realize it. "Okay, time is urgent, hurry up, I'll be waiting for your good news." Luo Chen left after speaking. Since someone had already spoken to Ichigo and Iadai, he also had to make some preparations. The purpose of coming to Soul World this time is to save Rukia, but Luo Chen has not forgotten this initial mission. Asanjing Renji looked at Luokan's leaving back and bowed deeply. Originally, he was still confused, entangled between S-Linting's rules and Rukia's life, but now he understands. If Rukia dies, he will not stay in the slinging court, so he chooses to become stronger and save Rukia. Luokan found Shiro Yukitake and originally wanted to discuss with him if there was a way to solve Rukia's matter, but he didn't expect Kiraku Harusui to be here too. It's really lively. As soon as Luo Chen entered the door, he stood aside and poured himself a cup of tea. Jingle Chunshui was not surprised when he saw Luokan. He felt familiar when he saw Luokan before, but now he understands when he sees Shiro Yukitake. A moment of doubt appeared on Shiro Yukitake's face, and he asked, "Why did you come here?" "Of course I came to discuss with you about saving Rukia, aren't you worrying about this?" Luo Chen said and drank a cup of tea. Jingle Chunshui laughed at the doubtful look in Shiroku Yukitake's eyes, and made fun of Shiroku Yukitake. "No way, have your friends forgotten after you haven't seen him for so long? Do you still need me to remind you?" Luokan and Jingle Chunshui looked at each other and smiled, as if they had been friends for many years. Shiro Yukitake watched Luokan getting excited, coughed twice and said, "Luokan, are you really okay?" "I thought." Luokan shrugged his shoulders, although the god of death Luokan is really dead, but now he will replace the god of death Luokan to help you solve the problem together. "Okay, let's stop here. Time won't allow us to continue talking." Luokan looked at the sun outside and began to feel anxious. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Shiro Yukitake and Harusui Kiraku have almost come up with a solution, but they will also get involved in trouble. "Is it worth it for you? Let me, a dead person, come here," Luokan said lightly. Shiro Yukitake shook his head. Rukia is his subordinate, he must help Rukia himself, otherwise he will feel bad in his heart. "Just let him do it. It's rare for Shiro to be so energetic, so don't hit him," Jingle Chunshui said half jokingly and half seriously. Luokan didn't say anything anymore. He would try his best to cooperate with Shiro Yukitake and the others. However, the biggest variable in this operation is Aizen. Now it can be preliminarily determined that Aizen is hiding in the central room 46, and I don't know if Tushiro can solve him. By the way, what do you think of Dong Shilang's abilities? Luokan still decided to listen to their opinions. After all, Dong Shilang was the new captain, and Luokan, the god of death, didn't have much memory of him. 100 million. Chapter 983. Shiro Yukitake and Chunshui Kiraku both spoke highly of Tushiro, and it is not easy to be a captain at his age. "Oh, then I expect him to surprise me," Luo Chen said lightly, with a mysterious smile on his face. The sky slowly lit up, and there was still half a day before Rukia's execution, so Luo Chen decided to go back first. "See you later." Luokan said hello to Uzumaki Suni 74 Lang and Jingle Chunshui and left. Luokan took the lead to return home, and was very satisfied to see Ishida Yulong and the others full of energy, and raised his hand to say hello. "I'm ready to go, today is the day to rescue Rukia." Ishida Yulong and the others looked at Luokan suspiciously, thinking he was ill. Luokan smiled embarrassedly, and told them about Rukia's execution time ahead of schedule. Yulong, Ishida and the others all widened their eyes in surprise. Why, Rukia's execution time was brought forward again. Ishida Yuryu was deeply disgusted by Death's unbelievable behavior. Luokan shrugged his shoulders. There are too many things involved in this matter. There is no way to talk to Ishida Yulong and the others in detail, as long as they know that they should contribute. Ganju has also forgiven Rukia, and the bandages on her body have also been removed. Okay, let's go right away. As for Ichigo, they will definitely arrive. Luo Chen waved his hand and led a few people out of the room. Seeing the sun again, Ganju stretched out in satisfaction, enough for him to lie down for the past 2 days. The air outside is still good, and the sun is so warm. Luokan curled his lips, as if he had imprisoned a few of them, he was so ignorant. Luokan brought Ishida Yulong and the others to Shinmu Kenpachi's residence, and naturally he came here to welcome Orihime. Ah, this isn't the house of the god of death, right? Ganju had already sensed Shinmu Kenpachi through Reiatsu, and his heart began to drum. Luo Chen couldn't help laughing, raised his eyebrows, and asked, "No way, the Zibo clan is still afraid, but your performance will be criticized by Konghi." The image of his sister teaching him a lesson instantly appeared in Ganju's mind. He stood up excitedly, and took the lead to walk to Shinmu Kenpachi's room. It seems that Shinmu Kenpachi is not as terrifying as Zibo Kong, Ishida Yulong said with emotion. Shinmu Janpachi had guessed that they should come, and the door of the room was not closed, so he sat indifferently and looked at Orihime. As soon as Gansu entered the room, he felt an indifferent atmosphere. He wanted to say something, but he didn't dare to open his mouth. "What's wrong with you, are you hot?" Orihime asked concernedly, seeing the constant sweat on Gansu's head. Ganju shook his head. He was nervous. After all, Shinmu Kenpachi was notoriously ruthless and cold-blooded. If he suddenly moved his hand, Ganju had no confidence to run away. Shinmu Janpachi glanced at Luokan and asked, "What's your plan? Aren't you going to be the enemy of the entire S-Lingting?" In that case, Shinmu Janpachi would be the first to run out to be his opponent, preventing him from being killed by others. When Ganju heard this, he sweated even more, and looked at Luokan worriedly, hoping that he wouldn't do anything stupid. XXX. Luokan laughed loudly. Although he had this ability, he didn't plan to do it. If Ganju and the others were caught and taken hostage, it would be miserable. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 984. As long as you destroy the execution platform, there is no need to spend so much. Shenmu Janba laughed when he heard what Luo Chen said, which is really a bold act. After all, it is something that can kill the god of death, and a normal god of death would not have such an idea. What? Orihime saw Luo Chen and Shinmu Kenpachi laughing together and thought she had missed something. After Luokan finished talking about his plan, he was about to leave. He wanted to see the situation on Shiroku Yukitaki's side. He couldn't let Shiruro Yukitaki be charged with any crime. Ganju panicked when he saw that Luo Chen was about to leave, grabbed Luo Chen and asked excitedly, "Are you going to leave us like this?" Luokan 22 nodded without hesitation. That's exactly what he planned. The expression of being born without love instantly appeared on Ganju's face. He had already planned to sacrifice, but he didn't expect to die here first. "You will take good care of these little brats." Luokan looked at Shinmu Janpachi. He believed that Shinmu Janpachi still had this ability. Shenmu Janba snorted coldly, and he knew that Luo Chen had nothing to do with him. "I'm Captain Death, I'm not responsible for what happened to them." Shinmu Kenpachi picked up the Zanpakuto and was about to go out. After all, Shinmu Kenpachi was the captain, and he was going to attend Rukia's execution ceremony. Luo Chen smiled lightly, and left without saying a word. When Ganju saw that Luokan had really left, he felt extremely desperate, and turned to look at Ishida Yulong and the others. "Hurry up with me, little devils, I'm very busy." Shinmu Janpachi rushed out after speaking, and Ba Chinliu also climbed onto his back and left together. Orihime ran out first, and Ishida Yulong and Chadu were also about to run out, but Gansu held them back. "Are you sure you want to follow that guy? He looks like he's going to kill us." Ganju's scalp tingles when he thinks of this picture. Ishida Yulong and Chadu nodded vigorously. They believed that Luokan's decision would not be wrong, so they wanted to follow Shinmu Kenpachi to rescue Rukia. "Ah, you guys are really a bunch of brainless guys." Ganju watched Ishida Yulong and Chadu also leave and couldn't help but complained, and finally followed them to go after Shinmu Kenpachi. Luokan originally wanted to find Shuru Yukitaki, but ended up halfway there. "I met a Sanjing Renji again. Yo, the two of us are really destined to meet each other every day." Luo Chen said lightly. A Sanjing Renji answered without hesitation, but he made up his mind to embark on this path, so he had to save Rukia no matter what. Luokan looked at Asanjing Ryanji's smug look, and teased, "Why, have you mastered the solution yet?" Asanjing Renji nodded and said nothing, and continued to run towards Xingtai. Luokan was stunned for a moment. He really didn't expect Renji Asane to learn so quickly. Seeing Rukia means something to him. Even if you have learned the dissolution, you have to be careful. After all, your mastery of dissolution is not as proficient as the captain-level Reaper. Luo Chen seemed to remind Asane Renji. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 985. Luokan actually followed Asanjing Renji to the bridge in front of the confession room. Why did you come with me? Asanjing Rionji had a disgusting tone. This time, he came here with the belief that he was going to die. Luokan sighed helplessly. Who made him so soft-hearted, afraid that Asanjing Renji would be killed alone? It's better that I accompany you in. Anyway, our goal is the same, so why should we care who saved it? Asane Renji didn't say anything either. He would definitely rescue Rukia anyway. Just as Luo Chen and Asanjing Renji stepped on the iron bridge, Kuchiki Byakuya appeared, holding the Zanpakuto in front of them, and looked at them indifferently. Asanjing, did you even defect? Kuchiki Byakuya asked coldly. Asanjing Renji snorted coldly. He didn't defect. He became a god of death entirely because of Rukia's relationship. If Rukia died, what would it mean for him to be here? I see tilde. Kuchiki Byakuya knew what he meant when he saw Asanjing draw his sword. Luokan also took out the Zanpakuto. He was still a little worried about Kuchiki Byakuya. His ability was not much weaker than Shinmu Kenpachi. I don't need your help, surpassing Captain Kuchiki is my goal. Let me prove it this time. Asane Renji said firmly. Luokan frowned slightly. That's what he said, but his strength is here. Then eat this, at least it can save your life. Luo Chen took out a life-sustaining pill, so that Renji Asanjing could avoid death. Asanjing Renji was really unhappy that Luo Chen was so underestimated. He raised his Zanpakuto and charged towards Kuchiki Byakuya. Captain, I have always thought that I would work hard to become stronger. Today, let me prove it. Roar, Shiwaimaru. Asanjing directly liberated Shiwaimaru's power. Kuchiki Byakuya's expression was still flat when he saw this scene, which made Asanjing very angry. Since he was defeated by Luo Chen, he has been practicing hard, and he has finally learned how to understand it, but he is still looked down upon by others, which is really irritating. Asane drove Shiwaimaru to attack Kuchiki Byakuya, while Kuchiki Byakuya used Shunpo to disappear in place, quickly appeared behind Asane, and picked up the Zanpakuto to attack. When tilde. The sound of Zanpakuto colliding sounded. Asane can already see Byakuya Kuchiki, so he doesn't need to be afraid of him using Shunpo to attack. Luo Chen shook his head aside, although Asanjing blocked Kuchiki Byakuya's first attack, but Kuchiki Byakuya's attack hadn't shown 50% of his skill. Diaresis Asanjing. Don't be complacent, be careful, the battle has just begun. Luokan couldn't help reminding him. Asanjing shouted in disgust, I'm so annoying, of course I know. Next, I'll let you see the results of my special training. Asanjing waved the Shiwaimaru and continuously attacked Kuchiki Byakuya Shin, good job, but Kuchiki Byakuya evaded nimbly and effortlessly. Is this the result you said? It's ridiculous. Byakuya Kuchiki ruthlessly laughed at Renji Asane. Asanjing Renji felt very insulted in her heart, and shouted loudly, DJG. I saw Shiwaimaru kept changing, and finally turned into a huge snake circling around Asanjing, tightly surrounding him. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 986. Oh, so I learned to understand. Kuchiki Byakuya said disapprovingly. His face still had no expression, and his tone was so cold. Luo Chen is quite interested in the solution of Asanjing. This big snake is really long and looks quite scary. I've been working hard to defeat you and become stronger, let me prove myself today. Asanjing said and launched an attack. Because Sawaimaru's body is relatively long and the attack range is relatively large, this time Kuchiki Byakuya began to struggle to dodge. Suddenly, Sawaimaru attacked Kuchiki Byakuya and knocked him out several meters away. Captain Deadwood quickly used the D solution. Let's compete. Asanjing said excitedly. He didn't want to continue fighting like this. Kuchiki Byakuya sneered disdainfully. Just relying on Asanjing's dick solution is not enough to threaten him. Let's scatter, Senbon Sakura. Kuchiki Byakuya just began to understand. The Zanpakuto in his hand disappeared instantly, and cherry blossoms flew around. Luokan sighed aside. After observing the first time of Renji Asanjing and Byakuya Kuchiki, he knew the outcome of the battle. Asanjing is bound to lose. He has not fully grasped the true power of the D solution. There are many flaws in the use of Sawaimaru. It is impossible to compete with the speed-type Senbon Sakura. The sound of Sawaimaru kept ringing in the air, but Kuchiki Byakuya's Chimoto Sakura failed to break through Shiamaru and attack Asanjing. Captain Kuchiki, hurry up and solve it, you can't beat me. Asane Renji is now full of confidence. Kuchiki Byakuya didn't move at all, and directed Senbon Sakura to attack Sawaimaru. Wow la tilde. Chinbon Sakura cut Sawaimaru's body open, and sections of Sawaimaru fell to the ground. Asanjing, Luokan shouted, worried about the situation of Asanjing. Under the control of Kuchiki Byakuya, Chimoto Sakura continued to charge towards Asanjing, but Asanjing showed a proud look on his face. Suddenly, Sawaimaru reconnected, and a layer of Reiatsu appeared in every section of her body. Sawaimaru's body is connected by my spiritual pressure, and it can stretch freely at any time. Don't underestimate me too much. Asanjing Renji said proudly, his eyes fixed on Kuchiki Byakuya. Kuchiki Byakuya's eyes were full of disdain, and he was not at all troubled by such an ability. Luo Chen cheered Asanjing loudly from the side. Well done, that's it, beat him. Although Luokan had expected the result, there was still hope, in case something happened to hell. Asanjing regained control of Sawaimaru and launched an attack on Kuchiki Byakuya, but Kuchiki Byakuya quickly disappeared in place, using Senbon Sakura to entangle Sawaimaru. Chinbon Sakura quickly surrounded Sawaimaru. Asanjing Renji frowned, trying her best to ask Sawaimaru to entangle her, but to no avail. This game is over, Kuchiki Byakuya said indifferently, and the Senbon Sakura, who had controlled a part, launched an attack on Asane Renji. Asane Renji's pupils widened, seeing the attack coming towards him, but there was nothing he could do. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 987. With a bang, the dust rose, and Renji Asanjing stared at Luokan with wide eyes, but he didn't expect him to block the attack for himself. Asanjing didn't say a complete sentence for a long time, and there were thousands of thoughts in his heart. Luokan smiled lightly, and made a random excuse to perfunctory. But Kuchiki Byakuya mocked Asanjing Renji. Is this the proof you said? It's ridiculous. After speaking, Kuchiki Byakuya walked to the confession room. He had already decided that Renji Asanjing would not cause any more danger, so he let him go. This was a great insult to Asanjing Renji. He excitedly picked up the Zanpakuto and charged towards Kuchiki Byakuya. Asanjing, don't be impulsive. Before Luokan's words were finished, he saw Kuchiki Byakuya unleashing Chinbon Sakura's power. There were many wounds on Asanjing Renji's body instantly, and blood spurted out all at once. Dang tilde dang. Asanjing Renji lay unconscious on the ground, and Kuchiki Byakuya left without any hesitation. For the Shinigami who had violated the rules, his life and death had nothing to do with Kuchiki Byakuya. Luokan hurriedly stepped forward to help Asanjing Renji's treatment, but fortunately Kuchiki Byakuya didn't kill him, but it only made Asanjing Renji lose consciousness. It seems that Kuchiki Byakuya is still a bit human, Luo Chen said and fed Asanjing a pill. After a while, Asanjing opened his eyes. Am I not dead? Asanjing Renji was very sad. He had already been hacked by Kuchiki Byakuya, but he didn't die. It was a great humiliation. Luokan shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, "Yes, Rukia is still waiting for you to rescue him. How could you just die like this?" Although Asane Renji was unhappy, she immediately recovered when she heard that Rukia was still waiting for his rescue. She stood up and walked towards the confession room. Luokan stopped him. Asane Renji was just going to die now, let him rest for a while. But Luokan stunned Asane Renji before he could finish speaking, which means that it was too much trouble, so it's better to do it directly. Just like that, Luo Chen hugged Asane Renji to find a safe place, and happened to meet Yaiki on the way. At this time, Yi Yi has returned to her original appearance, wearing a shapewear. She looks very good. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Asane, why are you two together? Yi Yi looked at Luo Chen suspiciously and asked. When Luokan was about to answer, a goddess of death suddenly appeared beside him, and the goddess of death was very excited after seeing Yi Yi. XXX. Master Yi, I didn't expect to see you again. It's really nice. The goddess of death showed a permeating smile. 0. Luokan knew from the memory of Luokan, the goddess of death, that this goddess of death was a broken bee, who worshipped Yi Yi incomparably at the beginning, and now they have become like this because Yi Yi escaped from the spiritual court. Yi Yi was also very relieved to see Broken Bee wearing the cape of the captain of the 2nd Division. Well, it's been really hard during my absence. You have made great progress. Yi Yi said lightly. Broken Bee's face was very grim, as if he wanted to smash Yi Yi into 10,000 pieces. Luo Chen was extremely embarrassed by the sight. Seeing the two of them communicating like this was really uncomfortable. It would be better to start a direct fight against each other. 100 million. Chapter 988. I was extremely happy when I heard that Lord Yi had returned to the S-Lingting. I could finally defeat Lord Yi with my own hands. Broken Bee said that. Shang Yi launched an attack. His movements were very agile and his speed was very fast, and he disappeared in front of his eyes with a swish. Yi said to Luokan, you take a Sanjing and leave first, and leave it to me. After Yi finished speaking, he also disappeared in front of Luo Chen, and the 320 fought in the air with a high speed. If they were replaced by ordinary gods of death, they wouldn't be able to see them at all, that is, people with a strong ability to fall dust could see them. Luokan originally wanted to leave. After all, the time is pressing now, but he became worried after seeing Yi gradually falling into a disadvantage. Yi, are you okay? Luo Chen asked worriedly when he saw that Yi had a few more bee patterns on his body. Broken Bee looked at Yi proudly and laughed. I can't believe that the brave Lord Yi has become what he is now. Do you still remember my ability? Yi wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Broken Bee used to be her most proud subordinate. How could she have forgotten the ability of Broken Bee? Ah, as long as you are stabbed in the same spot again, you will die. I have always kept this in mind. Broken Bee was very angry when she saw that Yi was still able to talk and laugh calmly, and started to attack Yi again. Luokan was worried and blocked in front of Yi, and he must not let Yi take it. Unexpectedly, Yi pushed Luo Chen away and shouted loudly, let's go quickly. Leave me alone, you have more important things to accomplish, right? Luokan frowned. Time was pressing now, but he couldn't let Yi get hurt here. Thank you for caring about me so much, but you have to believe in my ability. I will not lose this kind of battle. Yi said firmly, his eyes full of confidence. Luokan nodded and left with a Sanjing, feeling a little more guilty about Yi in his heart. After running for a while, Luo Chen suddenly thought that Sanjing was the god of death. Even if he attacked Kuchiki Byakuya, the news wouldn't spread now, so he was completely safe. With that in mind, Luokan threw Sanjing aside and watched the time pass to Xingxingtai. Really, it's a waste of time. Luo Chen's face was full of disgust, and he kept complaining to Sanjing in his heart. Sanjing woke up after Luo Chen left. saw the surrounding streets stand up, and suddenly there was a pain in his neck. I remembered, that guy dared to knock me out. Ah Sanjing said angrily. Although he knew that Luo Chen was well-intentioned, he still couldn't accept such a brutal method. At the same time, Zibo Kong came to Liuhun Street. She found Sidanfang in a room, and there were two people taking care of Sidanfang next to her. When the two of them saw Zibo Kong standing up to say hello immediately, sweat broke out from their scared heads. Yo, Sidanfang, come with me to S-Lingting, Zibo Kong said confidently. Sidanfang's wound was almost healed, and he was also concerned about Orahime's situation, so he directly agreed to Shiba Sora's invitation, and the two of them started to move towards S-Lingting. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 989. Luokan quickly ran to Xingxingtai. At this time Rukia just arrived, and Shiro Yukitaki and Jingle Chunshui hadn't arrived yet. Hey, it looks like they are in trouble too. Luo Chen started to worry when he realized that there were no Ichigo and them around. The captain of the first team was already sitting by the side, staring solemnly at Rukia being tied up to Xingtai, and slowly floating into the air. Luo Chen looked at the first team captain and felt a little vague, but he knew that this old man's strength was very troublesome. Although Luo Chen has the confidence to defeat him, he will spend a lot of time in it. Luokan 22 kept looking to the side, hoping that Jingle Chunshui and the others would come over quickly, but they were not seen for a long time. The execution begins. The first team captain gave an order. In an instant, a gigantic Zanpakuto turned into a gigantic phoenix, flying in midair and screaming constantly. Luokan saw that the situation was not good and couldn't wait any longer. 9 tails. Luo Chen shouted, and the 9 tails immediately appeared in front of the gods of death. This time, the gods of death were terrified. The captain of the first team, Jai Chongguo, saw Dao Luokan's figure with a few tears in his eyes, and was very happy. Luokan, it's great that you didn't die, Jai Chongguo said excitedly. Luokan smiled at Jai Chongguo, and said firmly, you can't hurt Rukia, I'll protect her life. Jai Chongguo's expression changed when he heard Luo Chen's words. He didn't expect that Luo Chen would be a different person when he came back this time, and dared to talk to him like that. Luokan, quickly retire for me, this is not something you can decide, Rukia must be executed, Jai Chongguo said firmly. Jai Zongguo thought that something must have happened to Luokan over the years, otherwise it would be impossible to become like this. Luokan is also grateful to Jai Chongguo, but he still has to say sorry to him. The fire phoenix in the air had already started to attack Rukia, and Luo Chen quickly asked 9 tails to help. Kyuubi's body immediately became as high as the execution platform, and she used her huge body to block Rukia. Luokan, leave me alone, you can leave quickly, this is my life, don't resist anymore. Rukia was really moved when she saw Luokan, but she didn't want to cause him any more trouble. Luokan laughed, this was Ichigo's wish, how could he give up so easily? Boom, the fire phoenix hit Juwei's body, making a violent sound. Luo Chen shouted, 9 tails. 9 tails roared and spit out a fireball at Huafeng. Attacks of the same attribute didn't do much damage to the fire phoenix, and only repelled it a bit. Fire Phoenix again raised her arms and waved high, aiming at the 9 tails and launched an attack. At this time, Ichigo finally appeared, and after seeing Kyuubi and Luokan, he thanked them. Ichigo. Rukia's tears came out when she saw Ichigo's excitement again, and more importantly, Ichigo's body injuries. Ichigo looked at Rukia proudly, I really can't do it without you. Rukia instantly cheered up when she saw Ichigo, and refuted Ichigo full of energy, which made Ichigo very angry. Idiot, is this what the rescued should say? Who asked you to save me? You are an idiot. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 990. The two of them quarreled like this. Jai Zongguo can't allow anyone to destroy the execution. He is not willing to fight Luo Chen, but he is willing to fight against Ichigo. Don't be too complacent, this is the spiritual court. Jaizanguo issued a powerful spiritual pressure, trying to restrain Ichigo. Luokan hurriedly made the Nine Tails stand in front of Ichigo and Rukia. At this time, Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shiruro arrived. They quickly set up the formation, and then put the Fire Phoenix into the tank. You two are actually, said Chongguo's nose was about to crook when he saw Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru. Jingle Chunchui smiled embarrassedly in the direction of Jai Chongguo. He had no other choice, so he had to do this in order not to kill innocent people indiscriminately. Jai Zongguo is now completely provoked. As the saying goes, if you want to kill the outsider, you must first settle the inside. You two have already made the corresponding consciousness tilde. Saijiguni looked angrily at Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru. It's okay for Luokan to do this, even the two captains under his command are against him, which makes Jai Zongguo bear it. Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru is naturally prepared, otherwise how dare they do such a thing. With a sound of boom, the execution platform was split open by Ichigo. Luo Chen looked at Ichigo in the air in surprise. He didn't expect that he would do such a thing. No matter how the execution stand represented the authority of the S-Lingting, it would be lifeless to do so. The expressions of the gods of death who were present also changed. A calamity brigade was so arrogant in front of them that they didn't take them seriously. Bring your horses over here. Ichigo pointed at the gods of death indifferently. The corners of Luokan's mouth curled up, thinking that this is indeed something Ichigo can do. Saijiguni took the lead in attacking, but the targets were Kyoraku Chunsui and Yukitake Shuru. The place here is too small, if the fight will definitely affect the innocent, so the two of them fled quickly, ready to find a wide place to fight again. Go on, don't let the disaster brigade underestimate our abilities. The vice captains got excited and attacked Ichigo one by one with the Zanpakuto. Ichigo threw Rukia directly at Kyuubi, and Luo Chen quickly let Kyuubi catch Rukia. Hey, don't just throw others out. Rukia protested loudly, she couldn't use any strength now, and if Jujue didn't catch her, she would be dead. Ichigo didn't care either, and quickly dealt with the vice captains. Luokan looked at Rukia who was full of energy and said, it seems that Ichigo is a stimulant for you. I was still so sad just now, but when I saw Ichigo, I became so energetic. Rukia couldn't help but complain, who told that guy to always be so reckless and use his head. Okay, Ichigo shouted loudly after hearing Rukia's complaints. Idiot, who are you talking about? Is this your attitude towards your savior? Rukia also unceremoniously shouted to Ichigo, who asked you to save me, and it was Luokan and Luokanto who saved me just now. Ichigo felt angry when he heard Rukia's words, and the strength in his hands increased a little bit, and the vice captains couldn't resist it at all. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 991. The vice captains fell one after another, and the only captain who could fight was Byakuya Kuchiki. The day has finally come, let's make a move. Ichigo was ready to fight, raising his Zanpakuto to Kuchiki Byakuya. Kuchiki Byakuya unhurriedly took out the Zanpakuto, his eyes filled with indifference. Kuchiki Byakuya didn't pay attention to Ichigo at all, his goal was falling dust. The last time Luo Chen defeated him so easily, he didn't even have a chance to use the D-solution. You can't beat me, so get out of the way. Byakuya Kuchiki cast his eyes on Luokan's body. Superior. Luokan also realized that he wanted to fight against him, and he didn't mind, so he let Jue go. Roar tilde. Ninetails shouted in high spirits, this is the S-Lingting court, surrounded by high-quality spiritual sons. Ninetails' body feels full of power. Ichigo stood in front of Kyuubi and said loudly, hey, your opponent is me, but I'm going to defeat you. Byakuya didn't care about Ichigo's words at all, raising the Zanpakuto was like an attack by the Ninetails. He knew that as long as he defeated the Ninetails, he would be able to challenge Luokan. When tilde. Byakuya's Zanpakuto was blocked by Ichigo. HMPH, If you don't beat me, don't think about it. Ichigo said proudly. He would not allow his opponent to be defeated by others. Byakuya's patience was also exhausted, and since Ichigo wanted to die, then it was up to him. XXX. Let's scatter, Senbon Sakura. Byakuya directly used his first solution, and 1,000 blades flew into the air, flying towards Ichigo in all directions. Ichigo smiled proudly. He was waiting for this moment, but he worked hard for a long time to defeat Byakuya. Seeing that the attack was about to reach Ichigo, Ichigo suddenly disappeared, came behind Byakuya, raised his Zanpakuto and slashed hard. Byakuya's reaction was also not covered. He immediately disappeared in place and dodged Ichigo's attack. It seems that your speed has indeed increased, but you still can't beat me. Byakuya had no leisure to play with Ichigo, so he used all his strength to control Sakura Senbon to attack Ichigo. Chimoto Sakura immediately surrounded Ichigo. Ichigo! Rukia shouted loudly, feeling worried for Ichigo. Ichigo's voice came from Sakura, and with a knife, Ichigo reappeared in front of everyone without being injured at all. Take her away quickly, don't get in the way here. When Rukia heard Ichigo's words, her head instantly showed signs of anger. She raised her fist and shouted at Ichigo, "Idiot, I'm just caring about you, and I think I'm in the way. You should hack the big brother to death." Shut up. Ichigo was a little distracted, and was accidentally cut by Chinbun Sakura. Luokan saw that it was not going to go on like this, so he had to take Rukia away first, and then come to rescue Ichu. Luokan picked up Rukia and ran to the death god Luokan's house. On the way, he saw Renji Asanjing, and he was going to Shintai to save Rukia. Love. Rukia. The two of them made incredible sounds at the same time, blinking at each other. When Luokan saw Renji, he felt relieved. He threw Rukia to Renji, said, "Rukia will be taken care of by you," and ran away. Renji felt a little inexplicable when she saw Luo Chen's back, but she felt more relieved when she saw that Rukia had nothing to do now. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 992. Renji, let me go quickly. Ichigo is still fighting with Big Brother. He is not his opponent. Rukia stubbornly wanted to go back to help Ichigo. Rukia managed to escape, but Renji wouldn't let her go back. She picked up Rukia and ran to safety, completely ignoring Rukia's objection. "I'm sorry, but I will do it even if you hate me," Renji said firmly. He must protect Rukia. Luokan quickly returned to Shintai and saw that Ichigo and Byakuya were fighting. "Why are you back, Rukia?" Ichigo was worried when he saw Luokan's figure, thinking that something had changed. "Don't worry, she has already been handed over to a reliable person by me. You should concentrate on the battle," Luo Chen reminded by looking at the sweat on Yihu's head. Although Ichigo's ability has been improved, his physical strength is also limited. Looking at Ichigo like this, it is estimated that his physical strength will be overdrawn. Ichigo snorted indifferently, raised his sword and shouted loudly, speeding up again to fight Byakuya. Byakuya could indeed feel that Ichigo's power had increased, but he didn't use all his power. Solution. Byakuya made his last big move. Several long swords appeared around him instantly, and a path of swords appeared in front of Ichigo and Byakuya. "This is your solution, it's really interesting." Ichigo's fighting spirit was all aroused, and he raised his Zanpakuto to prepare for battle. Kuchiki Byakuya looked at Ichigo indifferently, picked up the Zanpakuto and rushed over. The two were entangled again. Gradually, Ichigo couldn't keep up with Byakuya's speed. Luokan frowned, seeing that Ichigo's physical strength was almost at its limit. It was really embarrassing that he had been training for the past few days. Stab tilde. Byakuya slashed Ichigo. A huge wound appeared on Ichigo's shoulder, and blood kept coming out. "The next blow will kill you, are you ready?" Byakuya looked at Ichigo indifferently. Ichigo looked at Byakuya nervously. He wanted to rush over, but found that his body couldn't move. He was very anxious. Byakuya saw Ichigo standing still and slashing mercilessly. Unexpectedly, Ichigo suddenly let out a shrill laugh, and at the same time raised his zanpakudo and waved it. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. Ha ha ha, let you know what Zanyuki's true power is. An empty mask appeared on Ichigo's face, and the spiritual pressure increased greatly. Byakuya was really taken aback when he saw Ichigo like this, and after feeling Ichigo's reiatsu, his heart started to get nervous. Ichigo. Luokan felt that something was wrong when Ichigo became a god of death. How could someone have both the power of the virtual and the power of the god of death at the same time? 0. Ichigo swung the zanpakudo recklessly, and the enormous power made Byakuya lose and retreat, and he was suppressed in a few seconds. Haha, go to hell. Ichigo said loudly. When Ichigo raised his zanpakudo to cut it down, he suddenly made a painful sound, and at the same time tried to take off the mask with force. Idiot, I'm going to defeat him soon, don't come out and hinder me. That's my opponent, hurry up and go back to me. Ichigo is struggling with the other self in his heart. 100 million. Chapter 993. The corners of Luokan's mouth twitched, and it seemed that Ichigo really had an emptiness in his body, and the ability of this emptiness was very powerful. It's really interesting. Luokan decided to study this phenomenon carefully after returning from the Soul Realm, to see if he could catch a phantom to play with. After a roar, Ichigo managed to lift the mask off, and then panted as he looked at Kuchiki Shiratori. HMPH, you clearly had a chance to beat me just now, but now you have no chance at all. Kuchiki Byakuya felt that Ichigo's current reiatsu was not 1/10 of what it was just now, and there was a look of disdain in his eyes. Ichigo was not in a hurry, he raised his zanpakudo and shouted loudly, "Solution." Ichigo's body instantly burst out with a huge spiritual pressure, and the huge spiritual pressure blocked the sight of the surrounding. At this time, Ishida Yulong and others rushed over, and they were very nervous when they saw Ichigo's appearance. Ichigo will be fine, right? Orihime asked worriedly. Luokan said firmly, "Don't worry, that fellow Ichigo won't die so easily, but he has a lot of power in his body." Orihime felt more relieved when she heard the words of falling dust, but her face was still sad. Tien Suo Zanyu. The spiritual pressure around Ichigo gradually dissipated, and he took out a long black zanpakudo in his hand. Luo Chen really likes this zanpakudo, and the clothes on Ichigo's body have changed into a self-cultivation style, and he looks very handsome. "Come on Ichigo," Luo Chen shouted loudly. Ichigo glanced at Luokan's side, saw Yulong Ishida and the others coming. With a smug look on his face, he raised his thumb. "I will definitely not disappoint you, Zanyu Impact." As soon as Ichigo came up, he gave Byakuya a slap in the face and told him to stop underestimating himself. Although the special training time is not long, the effect is still obvious to me, and his ability has made a leap in quality. Kuchiki Byakuya's face also showed a hint of shock, and he became serious after seeing the power left by Ichigo's slash. Kuchiki Byakuya grabbed the zanpakudo and disappeared instantly, fighting with Ichigo in the air. Dang dang tilde. Orihime and the others only heard voices, but they couldn't see Kuchiki Byakuya and Ichigo at all. "Ichigo is so powerful," Ishida Yulong said in shock. Compared with the power he lost, he had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Luokan glanced at Ishida Yulong. Although he also had the power of a Quincy, he didn't use it often, and he wasn't particularly proficient. "Come on, Ichigo." Orihime didn't care whether she could see it or not. Anyway, it was right to cheer Ichigo loudly. After a few rounds, Kuchiki Byakuya fell into the disadvantage again. Ichigo looked at Kuchiki Byakuya proudly and said, "What's the matter, is that all you have? I really overestimate you." Kuchiki Byakuya cut and responded indifferently. "Don't think that you can catch up with my speed after you learn Shunpo, and don't have the illusion that you can beat me." After speaking, Kuchiki Byakuya rushed out again. Just when Ichigo and Kuchiki Byakuya were fighting, Toshiro had already entered the central room 46 and found that everyone inside was dead. Kira suddenly appeared from behind Toshiro. To find out the truth, Toshiro and Matsumoto Renki hurried to chase after Kira. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 994. Stop Kira, why are you there and what do you know? Toshiro asked Kira excitedly. Ji Liang didn't answer and asked, would you like to leave Hinamori there alone like this? Toshiro was stunned when he heard this, but he set up a barrier to prevent others from hurting Hinamori Dao. Ji Liang continued. Although your barrier is difficult to open outside, it can be easily opened inside, and don't forget that Hinamori Dao is a master of 22 ghosts. Dong Shilang's brows furrowed tightly, and a bad premonition welled up in his heart. Matsumoto, I'll leave it to you, I'll go back and have a look first. After speaking, Toshiro left. Kira didn't show mercy to Matsumoto either. He picked up the Zanpakuto and slashed it, and began to understand it. After a few rounds, Matsumoto's Zanpakuto was so heavy that Matsumoto couldn't lift it at all. My Zanpakuto can quantify the weight of the things it touches. Every time it touches it, it doubles, and it doubles again when it touches it again. You are out of luck. Kira couldn't bear to really hurt Matsumoto. After all, she was also one of the companions who got along day and night. The corners of Matsumoto's mouth curled up, and he directly released the power of Zanpakuto. Matsumoto's Zanpakuto disappeared instantly, turned into a chi and quickly rushed towards Kira, knocking Kira down in one fell swoop. I'm sorry, you lost. Matsumoto looked at Ji Liang with ease, knowing that he was not evil by nature, so he didn't hurt him anymore. Looking at Matsumoto's leaving figure, Kira sighed, and said to himself, how could there be such a Zanpakuto? It's really shameful. At this time, the battle between Ichigo and Kuchiki Byakuya has also heated up, and the strength of both of them is almost exhausted. Hey, do you really want Rukia to die that much? Ichigo couldn't let go of this question. Kuchiki Byakuya looked at Ichigo with disdain, and replied indifferently, wait until you promise me, but it's impossible for you. After speaking, the two of them raised their Zanpakuto and sprinted. With a swoosh, Byakuya Kuchiki fell. Ichigo won, Ishida Yulong said in shock. He had seen Kuchiki Byakuya's power. Now that Ichigo can agree to him, it means that Ichigo's power has increased rapidly. Orihime immediately jumped up happily and was about to run forward to celebrate Ichigo when Luokan stopped her. They still have something to say, just wait a while to celebrate. Luo Chen said with a smile. Orihime looked at Ichigo suspiciously, not knowing what else he was doing. Kuchiki Byakuya also fulfilled his promise and slowly opened his mouth. Do you really think that you can save Rukia, even if you are an enemy of the entire Soul Society? Do you have to save her? Is it really worth it? Ichigo replied without hesitation, I'm sure, and I have absolutely no regrets. Kuchiki Byakuya began to laugh at himself in his heart. Although he wanted to save Rukia, he couldn't fight against the rules of the Spirit Court. Then you can prove it to me. How did you fight against the entire Soul Society and how you rescued Rukia? Ichigo clenched his fists hard, raised the Zanpakuto around his neck, and looked at Kuchiki Byakuya confidently. Ah, just keep your eyes open. XXX. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 995. When Toshiro arrived at the central room 46, Hinamori Momo had already been killed, and Aizen's Zanpakuto was still stuck in her body. You actually killed her. Toshiro was excited, his whole body was shaking, and bloodshot eyes appeared in his angry eyes. Aizen smiled faintly, looked at Toshiro and shook his head. His original plan was to let Toshiro and Hina Morita kill each other, but Toshiro unexpectedly knocked out Hina Morita, which hindered his plan. Sit up in the frosty sky, Harinmaru. Toshiro directly released the power of Zanpakuto, a huge ice dragon appeared behind him, and he also put on a layer of ice armor. Aizen looked at Toshiro with interest, wanting to see how much anger he had. With a swish, Toshiro charged directly with his Zanpakuto, and the huge ice dragon charged from Aizen's chest. It's over. Toshiro naturally defeated Aizen, but he didn't expect a Zanpakuto to be inserted into his chest. When Toshiro turned his head to look again, he found that Aizen was standing in front of him intact, and what he had hurt just now was just a virtual image. Why, how did you do it, Tilda? Toshiro couldn't believe it. He was sure that he had hit Aizen just now. Aizen explained lightly about her own Zanpakuto ability, Kyoka Foggy Water, which can make people see hallucinations. Even if the other party just sees it at a glance, it will always have an effect. Toshiro's pupils dilated slightly. He never knew Aizen had such power, and he had never used this power in front of other gods of death. I'll answer you one more question before you die. The people in the 46th room in the center were killed by me long ago when they issued the order to arrest Rukia. Aizen said lightly. Toshiro's pupils dilated again, and he knew that the central 46th room could not have made such a decision, so it seemed that everything could be explained the same. Aizen pulled back the Zanpakuto, and then walked outside with Ichigenmaru. Now they want to capture Rukia back. When Masami Ran and Ichigenmaru were about to leave, Uno Hanaratsu and Toru Yumi came over. How could this be? Why is Captain Aizen here? Toru Yuyan asked in surprise. She was also deceived. Uno Hana replied elegantly. This is the true strength of Captain Aizen. When I checked the body, I found some abnormalities. Aizen clapped her hands and admitted Uno Hanaratsu's strength, but even that couldn't stop their plan. Ichigenmaru quickly drew a talisman on the ground, and then a beam of light appeared, and Aizen and Ichigenmaru disappeared in front of them. Diaresis Yongan, hurry up and investigate their location. After Unahakali finished speaking, he went to check the injuries of Toshiro and Hinamori. After some confirmation, Toru Yuyan found the final destination for Ichigenmaru and Aizen to be the execution platform. Hurry up and report this information to all the gods of death and the Brigade of Misfortune. I believe they will handle this matter well. What I really want to tell is Luo Chen, but it is not convenient to say it directly. Toru Yuyan immediately executed the order and used the ghost way of sound transmission to tell everyone in the spiritual court about Aizen's mutiny. When Jingle Chunchui and Yukitaki Shiruro heard the news, their brows furrowed tightly, and they asked Seizanguo if they wanted to continue fighting. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 996. You little bastards, none of you can give me peace of mind. Jaizanguo didn't have the mood to pay attention to them now, so he hurried to the execution platform. Luokan and others were shocked when they heard the news, especially Luokan. He didn't expect that the mastermind behind all this was Aizen. This guy lied to us, but it's really bad. Luo Chen said angrily. If Aizen appeared in front of him, he would definitely give Aizen a good beating. Thinking of this, Aizen and Ichigenmaru really appeared in front of Luokan, while Rukia and Asani Renji also ran over. Rukia, why are you back? Ichigo asked loudly. Facing Ichigo, Rukia immediately regained her childishness, and retorted willfully, this is my freedom, I can go wherever I like. Ichigo frowned and looked at Rukia, never seeing such a willful person. Rukia, come here quickly, you have what I want on you. Aizen walked towards Rukia. Rukia was stunned for a moment and stepped back, but because she was wearing a device to suppress the Reiatsu, she was unable to exert her strength and sat on the ground in the face of Aizen's Reiatsu. Asane Renji quickly picked up Rukia and looked at Aizen vigilantly. He would not give Rukia to Aizen again. Aizen said softly, Asanjing, you can put down Rukia and leave now, your mission has been completed. Asane Renji felt a dangerous aura from Aizen's body, as if he would be killed if he didn't obey. Ichigo reminded Renji loudly not to hand over Rukia. Idiot, of course I know, I will definitely protect her this time. Asane Renji said firmly. Aizen heard what Asanjing Renji said, so she stopped talking nonsense, raised her Zanpakuto and slashed over. With a swish, Asanjing Renji didn't even see the attack and found that his shoulder had been chopped off, and blood kept flowing out. Ah! Asane Renji let out a groan, and let go of the hand holding Rukia, and Rukia fell to the ground again. Aizen smiled proudly, and recounted the power of her fighting spirit. It doesn't matter what power he has, as long as he defeats you. Ichigo raised his Zanpakuto and rushed over, but he didn't expect that what he hit was a phantom. When Ichigo's Zanpakuto was knocked down by Aizen, and then Aizen kicked Ichigo hard, kicking him directly beside Asanjing. Orihime couldn't help seeing that Ichigo was injured, and wanted to step forward to help. Luokan hurriedly stopped Orihime. With her strength, it was impossible to defeat Aizen, it would only add to the casualties. I knew it from the moment you entered the Soul realm, so I sent Shi Yanwan to Liuhun Street to stop you from entering the Soul Palace, and you really followed my plan. Thanks to you, I was able to complete my plan. Aizen said proudly, and robbed Rukia at the same time. Luokan frowned, saying that Aizen knew all their actions. Why is that? You must think it's very strange. How do I know your location? Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 997. Ichigo was falling into the trap set by Aizen and excitedly asked Aizen how he knew where they appeared. Why, Urahara Kazuki didn't tell you, you should be his subordinates. Aizen put on an unbelievable expression, and Ichigenmaru, who was beside him, also laughed at Ichigo and they were just pawns. Ichigo frowned and looked at Luokan, hoping to get some answers from him, but unfortunately Luokan didn't know anything. Aizen saw that Ichigo and the others were so pitiful, so she told them what happened. It turns out that Urahara Kazuki originally invented a power between the god of death and the virtual. It's a pity that Kazuki Urahara wanted to destroy Benyu after knowing its power, but after trying various methods, Benyu showed no signs of being damaged at all. At that time, Urahara Kazuki sealed the Benyu in order to prevent others from using the power of Benyu, and then hid it in Rukia's body. Aizen started looking for Rukia after knowing the news. However, at that time, Rukia had already left the world and could not find her whereabouts at all, so Aizen took a lot of time to find out Rukia's whereabouts. Finding Rukia's whereabouts wasn't the end of it. He wanted to capture Rukia so that he could get the Benyu, so he aimed at rooms 40-6 in the center. After Aizen killed all the people in the 46th room in the center, she pretended to be them and issued an order to arrest Rukia, and then sentenced her to death. The role of Ichigo and the others is to successfully help Aizen to divert the attention of the Shinigami, and then take the opportunity to implement the plan. Damn, you actually used us. Ichigo looked at Aizen unwillingly, wishing to slash him a few times in his heart. Aizen looked at Rukia proudly, and took out props, and then reached into Rukia's body. With a swoosh, Aizen took out the Benyu from Rukia's body. You're useless to me now, but thank you for helping me save the collapsed jade for so long. Aizen said and was about to leave. Luokan wouldn't let him go so easily. If it weren't for him, there wouldn't be so many things happening, so I have to teach him a lesson. Luokan, your appearance was indeed an accident. I originally thought you were dead, but you are not my opponent. Aizen said confidently. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot seeking flowers katakana middle dot 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 katakana middle dot. The corners of Luokan's mouth twitched up. How would you know if you had to try something like strength? It wasn't certain who would win or lose. Nine Tails. Luo Chen summoned Nine Tails and ordered them to attack Aizen. Aizen activated the power of Zanpakuto again, and his body disappeared in an instant. Regardless of this, he could only deceive others, and Kyuubi had never been hit by Aizen's Zanpakuto before, so he could clearly identify his location. With a boom, Nine Tails gave Aizen a real paw. There were 5 bloody scratches on Aizen's body, and the blood kept flowing down. Lord Aizen, it doesn't matter, right? Ichi Yinmaru hurriedly stepped forward to help but was stopped by Aizen. Oh, is this your new power? It's really interesting. Aizen doesn't mind competing with Luoken, but he is very confident that he can defeat Luoken. At this time, Yi Yi and Broken Bee appeared, and it seemed that the two of them were reconciled, and they forced Aizen back neatly. 100 million. Chapter 998. I'm sorry, I'm late. Tosen was about to appear in front of Aizen and raised his Zanpakuto to prepare for battle. Kashiwamura Sajin was very shocked when he saw that Dongxian was actually Aizen's group, and the one who raised his battle spirit would cut Aizen, but Aizen got hurt. Why did you join Aizen? Sajin Kashiwamura was full of doubts. He became the god of death because of Dongxian Yao, but now Dongxian Yao has betrayed the god of death. Dongxian Yao didn't say anything, he just insisted on what he thought was justice, so it doesn't matter if he was misunderstood. Luoken looked at Aizen and they suddenly laughed and asked, do you think you can leave the Soul realm with the strength of the three of you? You underestimate us too. Aizen naturally has a way to leave, but not now. While I still have time to play with you, let me go, I've endured it for a long time. Aizen said contemptuously, he didn't put anyone in his eyes at all. Nine Tails. Luo Chen hated Aizen's attitude very much, which really made people angry. After receiving Luo Chen's order, Nine Tails immediately grew in her mouth and spit out a huge fireball. And Luoken activated the power of anger. Two ferocious light balls quickly hit Aizen, but Aizen stood still and remained motionless. Just as the attack was about to hit Aizen, a beam of light suddenly descended from the sky, covering Aizen, Toxanyao, and Ichijinmaru. At this time, Saiju appeared, and asked everyone not to attack Aizen and the others. But this will let Aizen and the others run away. Asanjing asked, he couldn't forgive those who hurt Rukia. Jai Changguo pointed to the air. At this time, a different dimension appeared in the sky of S. Lingting, and several large virtual arms stretched out from the different dimension. It's Daxu, Luoken said in surprise. He had only seen it once before, and it was only one. This time, it was better. More than a dozen Daxu circled in the sky of Lingting, as if protecting Aizen and them. Aizen and a few people gradually ascended into the different dimension in the light beam, but the other gods of death had nothing to do. Damn, let him run away like this. Ichigo said unwillingly. Luoken sighed. If he had discovered Aizen's conspiracy earlier, things wouldn't have turned out like this. It doesn't matter, this matter is our Lingting's negligence. It's fine now that you are back. Jai Changguo said to Luoken with a smile. Luoken looked at Jai Changguo's smile and felt a chill behind him, feeling that something bad was about to happen. After Aizen and the others left, Daxu disappeared, and Zibo Kong and Saidanfang fell from the sky. Looks like we came a step late, it's all to blame for your diligence, and you have to give me a good practice in the future. Zibo Kong sternly scolded Saidanfang. Saidanfang was also very afraid of Zibo Kong, and nodded in agreement. In this way, Aizen left the S-Lingting smoothly after obtaining the Bengyu, and the gods of death also realized their mistake and apologized to Luoken and the others. It doesn't matter, we also had a big fight anyway, it doesn't matter. Luo Chen smiled, anyway, things have become like this, it's too late to say anything now, it's better to forgive calmly. XXX. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 999. After Aizen left, S-Lingting returned to peace, and all the restoration work was proceeding in an orderly manner. On this day, Jai Changguo found Luoken. Captain, what's the matter? Luo Chen asked politely. When Jai Zongguo saw Luoken approaching, he immediately showed a smile on his face. He kindly waved at Luoken and let Luoken sit on his body, sighed. Luoken smiled awkwardly. Just when he was about to refuse but couldn't find a reason, Jingle Chunshui came in. The old man is too eccentric. Knowing that Luoken came back and forgotten me and the 22, he also let him be by your side. Jingle Chunchui teased. Jai Zongguo didn't care either. He knew what kind of person Jingle Chunchui was, so he directly dragged Luokan over. Then what's the matter? I just like Luokan, can't I? If you can be as obedient as Luokan, I'll like you too. Jai Zongguo replied calmly. The corner of Luokan's mouth twitched a few times. He didn't need Jai Zongguo's love. This kind of atmosphere was really strange. What's the matter with the captain? Luo Chen quickly changed the subject, hoping that Jai Chongguo could finish talking quickly, and then let himself go back. Jai Chongguo said, "Stay here, I know that what happened before was wrong, and I already knew that I was wrong." Luokan was stunned by Jai Zongguo's words. He did not have this memory at all, nor did he find anything in the memory of Luokan, the god of death. Jingle Chunchui didn't know what was going on, but seeing Jai Zongguo like this, he knew that Luokan was very important to Jai Zongguo. "Captain, don't be like this, I've never blamed you." Luo Chen didn't know what to say, he just hoped that someone could tell him what to do now. Jai Zongguo felt relieved after hearing what Luo Chen said, raised his head and looked at Luo Chen expectantly, hoping that he could stay in Lingting. Luokan looked at Jai Chongguo and was really embarrassed to reject him, but Luokan wouldn't stay here. Jingle Chunchui saw Luokan's idea, and refused for him. "Master, if you say that suddenly, it will make our little brother Luokan very embarrassed. Let's take a long-term view on this matter." Jai Zongguo's expression changed instantly, and he severely reprimanded Jingle Chunchui. "What do you know, now we have 3 less captains. If Luokan can return to the Lingting, it will not have any effect on our forces." Jingle Chunchui didn't dare to say anything when he saw Jai Zongguo's serious appearance, shrugged his shoulders to express to Luokan that he had done his best. Luokan smiled awkwardly, and he coughed twice to attract Jai Zongguo's attention. Jai Zongguo looked at Luokan again, his eyes still flashed with anticipation. They were completely 2 people from before. "Thank you very much for the commander's attention, but I can't stay. I already like the life in this world, so I'm sorry," Luo Chen said firmly. Jai Zongguo's face instantly showed a disappointed expression, and the old man's face was also pulled, and the atmosphere in the room instantly became heavy. "Although I can't stay, I'm still very happy to help if there is any problem in Lingting." Luo Chen quickly comforted Jai Chongguo, otherwise this room would really not be able to treat people. Jai Zongguo sighed deeply, he couldn't force Luo Chen to stay here, he could only reluctantly agree. Ellipsis 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 dot. Chapter 1000. "Okay, you all step back, I still have things to do." Jai Chongguo waved his hand, his eyes still on Luokan. Luokan and Jingle Chunchui instantly felt that there was hope in life, and hurried out of the room. "Putilda, I'm scared to death, I thought it would fall off." Jingle Chunchui touched the sweat on his head and said with relief. Luokan quickly thanked Jingle Chunchui. If he hadn't helped him in many ways just now, he really wouldn't have been able to shirk it. Jingle Chunchui laughed cheerfully and invited Luokan to have a drink together. "Okay, let's drink together." Luokan readily agreed. When the 2 were about to leave, Ichigo and Orihime suddenly ran out and asked if they had seen Rukia. "Rukia? No, what's wrong with her?" Luokan asked suspiciously. After hearing the answer, Ichigo ran away, completely ignoring Luokan's words, which made Luokan very puzzled, afraid that Ichigo would cause trouble in the Lingting, so he chased after him. "I'm sorry, we'll have a bar together next time, that's all for today, Tilda." Jingle Chunchui looked at Luokan's back and said softly, "Ah, it's good to be young, so energetic." Luo Chen quickly caught up with Ichigo and asked him what he was going for. "Rukia is gone, we are looking for her," Orihime explained. Running and running, Luo Chen came to the treatment room of the 4th Division, where Kuchiki Byakuya was on the 4th floor for treatment. Originally, there were stairs here, but Ichigo didn't have the patience at all, and climbed directly from the outer wall to the window on the 4th floor. "Byakuya, have you seen Rukia?" Ichigo suddenly raised his head, causing Asanjing to step back in fright. When Ichigo saw Asanjing, he just said hello casually, and Byakuya replied indifferently, "No, I have never seen Rukia." Luokan walked in from the outside, and when he saw Asanjing Renji, he casually greeted him here. "Since she's not here, she must be there." Ichigo jumped off after saying that. Byakuya had a puzzled expression on his face and looked at Ichigo outside the window. "I'm sorry Captain Kuchiki, Ichigo is too rash, I will definitely teach him well." Luo Chen apologized for Ichigo. Kuchiki Byakuya shook his head and said, "It's okay, I'm just thinking that he wants to keep calling me Byakuya." Luokan couldn't help laughing when he heard this question. He didn't expect to be so indifferent. How could a person think seriously about such a childish thing? Diaresis Captain Kuchiki doesn't like people calling you Byakuya. Luokan asked. It's not that Kuchiki Byakuya doesn't like it, but it's just that no one has called him for a long time, so he'll be more concerned when he hears it suddenly. It turned out to be like this, then get used to it, Byakuya. After Luo Chen finished speaking, he jumped out of the window. He was going to catch up with Ichigo. After Luo Chen left the ward, Kuchiki Byakuya suddenly laughed, saw Renji Asanjing next to him and asked, "What did you want to say to me, Gong?" Asanjing Renji shook his head. The current atmosphere made him have no courage to speak out, and he blamed Luokan and others for not coming at the right time. Really? Then forget it. Kuchiki Byakuya could actually guess what Renji wanted to say. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis.